Wow. What is up, chat? Sean is back. Oh God, not this guy. Did this guy leave the internet? Ugh.
Shocking! Children now born vaping!
Microwave meals now as harmful as getting hit by a car!
I should have never ridden an e-scooter! Cries mangled infant.
Is your child on Roblox? Well, they're a
New study finds fentanyl in everything.
Has your son done a press-up? He's on steroids!
Young student moves out of parents' house, dies 70 years later.
Government bans hard work in schools due to claims it's racist!
Wokeness discovered in monkeys after male and female chimps used same toilet.
10 dangers of not saying thank you to Siri.
Is your toddler an incel?
Base. When will you wear your Pfizer jacket to a debate? I don't know, whenever we have a vaccine debate. Or a COVID debate. Or a Lab Leak debate. But those are like settled topics for a lot of conservatives. So I don't even think they like those things are like off the table, because most conservatives think it's like a settled deal for all of this. What? I'm trying to... Oh. Not Scott Alexander. Popular streamer. I think it's sort of like an influencer, but somehow worse. True. Destiny's been watching / covering the Root Claim $100,000 Lab Leak debate, which I covered here. If you really want, you can watch him watching it for 18 hours. Otherwise, here's Peter Miller giving his highlights. Destiny also talks with / interviews Peter Miller, although a lot of it is various formulations of we smart people take the bold position that stupid conspiracy theories are bad, which I'm unfortunately allergic to, and so did not finish. Context. Rationalist blogger Scott Alexander, of whom Destiny's a fan, throws some uncharacteristically closed-minded shade. Is this really closed-minded shade? I feel like I usually have the same perspective. This is why I don't like kind of circle jerky conversations. Not that they're necessarily bad, they're just very boring to me. Not that Peter's boring, but like I'm more interested in arguing with people. Like I don't think this is a bad post at all. Like, you know. Please make an Atrix style video covering the... Yeah, I just need to finish this stupid note. God, dude. I need to be done with this fucking court case. Oh, I got like, this is such a fucking meme, dude. It's like every single part is a fucking meme. I got like this, I got stuff, discovery stuff. And it's like, imagine getting, hypothetically, theoretically, imagine getting like 10,000, 20,000 messages and every single one is in a fucking individual fucking file. It's just like a fucking joke. It has to be it has to be intentional. It has to be a fucking intentional joke. This is what I've been doing for the past 3 days is like open like 100 things and then close them out, read them one at a time, see what's like missing, what I have. Like it's just fucking, it's so fucking stupid. But that's okay. Well, I got nothing else going on with my free time, so. Have you taken any major L's so far in court? No. It's just a matter of like how long can it get drawn out for. That's where we're at right now. That's all we're doing. My feeling is, based on the behavior of plaintiff, that once this is over, they're probably exiting the space forever. So for them, it's just as much of a meme as possible until that. Good times. What does this fucking loser want?
The cost of housing is a very big problem. It is probably one of the biggest problems that we face as a country. And at the root of it, I know that there's nuance here, but at the root of it is a problem of increased demand all over the place, but increased demand specifically in certain areas, and constrained supply. So people want houses, they want to move out, they want their own place. More people are living alone. People are aging in place more. They're staying in their houses longer as they get older. And at the same time, there's a lot of things that constrain the construction of new homes. So you have these places where the house prices go up dramatically, but the number of houses being built doesn't go up dramatically, despite the fact that people could be making twice as much money building a house as they would like 3 years ago. Why aren't they doing that?
But isn't she spending money too? I don't know. She's never posted proof and will never post proof because the people that donated don't really give a fuck. They just did it to troll. I'm not convinced. There's no shot that the 50,000 covered the unbelievable amount of retarded shit she's done so far. So either her parents are paying for it, which is my guess, or it's donated services pro bono. There's no shot they took that case on contingency, given that I'm pretty sure 2 law firms shut her down before going in. So my guess is it's just free. She just pocketed the $50K. But I don't know. She hasn't posted receipts or anything, and nobody seems to care about it. Who cares? Good memes.
It's because there's wild constraints on the ability to build it all. We have that problem in a few places. Places where sort of demand continues to go up, but supply is being constrained. But one place that we haven't had that problem is with electricity. For 2 reasons. One, because new electricity generation has been coming onto the grid in the form of natural gas power plants, but also in the form of wind and solar. They've been adding a lot of capacity to the grid. At the same time, there hasn't been a lot of new demand on the grid because our houses are getting more efficient, our light bulbs are getting more efficient, our appliances are getting more efficient. Because of that, demand has stayed fairly steady. It's increased, but supply has been able to increase along with it. Now, I'm not saying that energy prices are not high and that they are not a burden for a lot of people, but relative to a lot of other things, like we obviously think a lot more about gas prices and healthcare prices and housing prices than we do about electricity prices. And that's good. That's the way we want it. We don't want electricity prices to be another thing that we have to think about. But we have just entered into a world where that is definitely the case because demand for electricity is going to come up, but supply is being intentionally artificially constrained. And kind of have to ask, who exactly benefits from this? Because it's not very many people. It just slows down the entire economy when electricity prices go way up. It's obviously bad for people, and it's also obviously bad for whoever gets blamed for it. So what the heck is going on here? Why is this happening? Why is supply being artificially constrained? And what does that tell us about the people who think that they're going to benefit from this? First, though, we have to talk about demand. So we all know that demand for electricity is increasing. The biggest reason being adding a bunch of data centers to turn electricity and intellectual property into large language models and other artificial intelligence systems that will theoretically fix everything, I guess. Whatever. We know that there are a ton of data centers being built, that they're all going to come online, that they're going to use a tremendous amount of electricity to do all the stuff they need to do to turn electricity into value for their shareholders. And it's going to be like one of the first new electricity sectors. I mean, it already is like the first new electricity sector that's been added in a very long time. And it's going to be a massive consumer of electricity. That's everybody's projection. That's what everybody thinks is going to happen. I believe it's going to happen too. I don't know what the value created from it will be, but it's definitely going to be a thing. It's going to be new demand. In addition to that new demand, we're also converting some demand from one energy source to another energy source. So when you install like a heat pump to replace your furnace, what you're doing is you're replacing natural gas with electricity. When you get an electric car, what you're doing is you're replacing gasoline with electricity. So there's also a bunch of stuff that's going to take pressure off of the natural gas markets, lower the prices of those, but increase demand for electricity. In terms of climate impact, that's obviously a net positive in terms of like air pollution in your town. But in terms of electricity demand, that's more demand. And unless supply is going to keep up with it, that's going to increase price. One thing I'm not going to talk about in this video, but is going to increase electricity prices is cryptocurrency. Yet another thing that requires a lot of data centers and a lot of electricity. And thanks to our sponsor Ground News, I was just checking up this story about how the Trump-backed Bitcoin company has begun trading on NASDAQ. And that was in its nice little US politics blind spots. I also hadn't heard about this one where the governor of Maryland is caught cruising on Clooney's yacht in Italy. Seems like an avoidable fate. And yet, but that's the great thing about Ground News. They show you the stuff that your news isn't covering. Like if you only see the right-wing news, you probably didn't hear about the fact that there's this Trump-backed company trading on the NASDAQ. But we've got it on NPR and NBC News. American Bitcoin, a firm co-founded this spring by Eric Trump. The way Ground News works, it gathers related articles from all around the world in one place with context about the source's political leaning, reliability, and ownership so you can compare coverage and quickly understand the bigger picture. The story about Florida becoming the first state to end all vaccine mandates for schools. We can see the left covering this. Florida Surgeon General vows to end every last vaccine mandate, and the right, Florida plans to phase out childhood vaccines for measles, polio. The body is a gift from God, says Surgeon General. Oh, boy. Or you have a very flat headline from CNBC, Florida to become first state to end all vaccine mandates, including in schools. Just saying what happened. Ground News works with 3 independent news monitoring organizations to rate the bias and factuality of media outlets. You can subscribe to get 40% off the Vantage plan by scanning this QR code that's been on the screen the whole time, or by using my link, ground.news/Hank. That's ground.news/Hank. So the question then is, will supply be able to keep up with it? And the answer is almost certainly not. That's what all these smart people who are investing in the stock market are showing us they believe. That supply is not going to keep up with demand. So there's going to be more demand for...
Is there like a global energy tracker for crypto? Is the energy consumption on that still going up? Or is it like kind of like rounded off a bit? Like, is it still increasing a ton?
For electricity, there's going to be the same amount of supply. The price is going to go very high. And all these companies that are making electricity are going to become extraordinarily profitable because they're going to be selling a product that has very inelastic demand. Like, we are going to use roughly the same amount of electricity. Everybody who's making electricity is going to be able to charge a higher price for it because it will be a more scarce resource. And they will charge the highest price they can get. Now, some of these are regulated utilities.
Why is your last FM page private? Because depending on when I would play music on my fucking phone or whatever, people on Kiwi Farms would try to track or figure out like where I was or who I was at. That's really crazy. I basically have to shut off like every public outlet that I have for, it's retarded.
And maybe we'll figure out ways to like force them to cap prices, but it's capitalism, baby. The highest price you can get for a product is the price you sell at. And certainly in terms of the federal administration right now, nobody expects it to be like a big push for like privatizing power or increasing the constraints on what they can charge you. But why won't we be able to meet this demand? We have to first look at like the electricity mix of the United States of America. So here's net generation of electricity for all sectors by source, 2001 to 2023. What you see is that coal is decreasing a lot. It's just become a less economic fuel compared to natural gas, which we're really good at getting out of the ground now. It's a cleaner burning fuel. We burn a lot of natural gas. It's the biggest piece of our pie right now. Nuclear has basically not changed over that entire time period. There are going to be some people trying to build nuclear plants, but that's going to be expensive electricity. Everyone expects it to be expensive electricity. It's very expensive to build nuclear plants. It's only worthwhile to build nuclear plants if the price of electricity is expected to go up a lot. And then the thing that is growing the fastest is other renewables, and that's going to be solar and wind. And solar, I think at the moment is smaller in that pie, but it's increasing much faster and is going to be, I think, the lion's share of the renewables electricity that we add in the future, especially because Trump is very anti-wind. He hates wind.
I never understood wind, and I know windmills very much.
Gotta love some iced tea on a hot day. So in terms of the ways that you would expect the new demand to be filled, you would expect that to be filled by natural gas and renewable. And the one big beautiful bill did 2 really terrible things things for our ability to meet the increased demand for electricity. Everybody is fully aware that there's going to be a huge inability for supply to increase while there's a huge increase in demand. And it is literally because of this bill. So the number one thing is that it made it much, much, much easier to export natural gas out of the United States. Now, this is a fairly difficult thing to do for, like, one, there's like a technological problem that we have now solved, which is that we liquefy the natural gas and we put it on giant boats, which we then ship to places to buy that natural gas. The only reason to do that is because you can get a higher price in another place than you can in the US, and that will increase the price in the US. There will be less natural gas available to the people who need to burn it to make electricity in the United States. It looks like over the next couple of years, natural gas exports from the US are going to double. That means that there's going to be less natural gas, means increased prices if you're using natural gas in your home for heat or for your stove or whatever. But it also means that it's going to be more expensive for power plants to buy it, which is going to increase the price of electricity. It's also, of course, going to increase the amount of drilling for natural gas, getting it out so that we can burn more of it. That's bad from my perspective, very bad. But in terms of price, you might think, well, that's going to lower the price. It would make it so the price wouldn't go up as much, but that's natural gas that otherwise wouldn't be economically viable to drill for. The only reason we would be pulling it out of the ground is because the price has gone up. So it's being pulled out because the price is higher. At the same time as that, there's just no more natural gas turbines to build. So there's fuel, but then there's the equipment. And the people who build the equipment are booked solid. They have sold all of the ones they can build for the next 5 years at least. So there aren't any new ones we can build in the near term. Like maybe we could import them from other places, whatever. But in terms of domestic supply, they're full. They would have to build factories they don't currently have. Supply is not going to come online immediately. But along with all the rest of this, again, I'll show you this graph showing that a lot of electricity that is being supplied to the grid right now is from renewables. A new bill makes renewables much more expensive to build. There were a bunch of subsidies that were part of the Inflation Reduction Act that were in part there so that there could be an increase in energy supply that are now gone. They've also increased the requirements that you use stuff made in the US. And if you've ever bought a solar panel, you know that they're a lot cheaper if you buy made in the US. Most of them are made in China and they're really cheap if they're made in China. They're good solar panels. And if you want to do that, if you want to increase domestic supply, like, okay, but also you should subsidize it, which they're not doing. So they're saying you have to buy solar panels made in the US, but the number of solar panels made in the US is low, and we're not going to subsidize the creation of new solar panels in the US. And we're not going to help those companies build factories to make new solar panels. And so this leads me to the big question of like, who benefits from electricity prices going up a bunch? And this is going to be a deeply cynical take and probably will not go in the direction you expect. Because of course you expect, and I agree, that the people who benefit are the people who run energy companies, and those people give donations to the party that is currently in power. And so they are getting the benefit of electing the people who agree with them on how energy should be produced, which is only through the burning of fuels that you pull out of the ground that eventually will run out. But let's not think about that right now. That's certainly part of it. And how much of this is like the Republican Party is the party of like fossil fuels, and how much of it is we are directly returning your investment in our campaigns? Whoever knows. Depends on where you sit on the ideological aisle, I imagine. Depends on how cynical you are. But a more cynical take here that I actually believe in, I think that Americans are going to blame Democrats for that. I think they're going to look at it and say, the Democrats, they pushed too hard on solar. We should have been building coal-fired power plants. We should have been building natural gas. And the reasons prices are going up so much is because solar and wind are a bad way to make electricity. And I see all these solar panels and I see all these wind turbines all over the place. And now the problem is worse. Now electricity is more expensive. The thing that about the power system that's changing, to my eye, is not that there's a bunch of big ships like taking natural gas away from America. I don't see those. It's not that copper prices are really high globally. I don't know what the price of copper is. It's not that tech companies are building a bunch of data centers for AI. I don't see those data centers. They're not near most people. What people see are solar panels and wind turbines. That is their connection to the power industry. I think Republicans and the Trump administration have no fear. Like there's no drawback to the prices going up because they're invested in the energy stocks. The prices of those stocks will go up. So that's good for them as individuals. They're delivering for the fossil fuel industry. Those people are going to get super rich. They're going to continue to support them and continue to deliver for them with donations. And the American people will see the price increase as caused by us switching over to solar panels and wind turbines. I think that that's the calculation, if any calculation is being done. They're just kind of expecting that like the way that people on the left think that the housing crisis is caused by some like nefarious action of individual capitalists rather than like a market problem. They're going to expect that Republicans will see that the energy crisis will have been caused by renewable energy because it's just like that's the simple direct line. You know that the prices have gone up. You see a bunch of solar panels and wind turbines. Mix those two things together. They must have caused each other. This is how correlations work in our brains. And this is especially true for people who are like, less likely to feel good vibes around solar panels and wind turbines because they like it less when the world changes because
I'm being pushed into this position because I'm radicalized, and this position is more radical than what reality probably reflects, but I feel like people lean way too heavily into greed and money and explaining people's behaviors, and I think it's been detrimental to messaging on the left. I can understand why we think that like lobbyists and corporate whatever bullshit, but I think this can be a part of the conversation, sure, but you have to have a conversation and you have to have an acceptance of how mind-numbingly fucking retarded the average American is when it comes to stuff related to energy. Like, I'm sorry, but a middle-class, white trash piece of shit family that hates fucking green energy because they think that whatever bullshit they heard on radio, these are not people who are getting massive corporate lobbyist donations to have their opinion on this be a certain thing. These are retards that have listened to fucking Fox News and Rush Limbaugh and other people on the radio and the TV and on the Facebooks and everything else who have been mind fucked, who have been mind raped into thinking that solar panels are going to destroy the fucking world. I think that there has to be more time spent on the I can't believe that we're in a world where you can argue against anything on the conservative side. I think that like 10 years ago, I was a big Bernie supporter because I thought campaign finance was the most important thing. So my opinions on this have changed, but I feel like the Trump stuff has woken me up a lot. People are driven by way more than just money. In a way, it's almost an anti-capitalist take. Well, not, I mean, it depends on the thing, but like, it's not just money and greed that explains people's behaviors. I wish it was. Like, I wish it was for election stuff. If it was just money that determined the outcome of elections, we could fundraise money and buy off probably state assemblies in certain states. I'm sure we could. How much money do you think is the average state senator election in like Iowa? I bet they spend less than $500K, maybe less than $100K on some of these elections for like a state. For a state not the federal, not like the federal Congress, but for like the state assembly. I feel like after the Trump stuff, these people will believe anything. It's just crazy. They'll believe anything. I can't believe we let go of all the Epstein stuff. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to say I was arguing just to argue, but I was presenting my position as a little more confident than it actually was when I was arguing with Kyla and Connor. I did think that the Epstein stuff would have at least a little bit of staying power, and I was saying it wouldn't at all. It didn't at all. It really meant nothing. That's just fucking crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Because they are conservative. And conservative is fine. I'm obviously not conservative. But the reality will be that the thing that increased the cost was an expected and known significant increase in demand and a bill that seemingly intentionally, by increasing dramatically the exports of natural gas and also decreasing dramatically the building of renewable energy projects, estimates are that like because of the big beautiful bill, we're going to build like half as much wind and solar as we otherwise would have. And the wild thing is that everybody in the energy industry or who pays attention to any of this completely understands this rather simple supply and demand imbalance that is being sort of dumped on the American people. They understand this. They understand why it's happening. They understand that it's happening. People are buying stocks with the expectation that it will happen. See the prices of energy stocks skyrocketing. Everybody knows it's going to happen, and everybody knows why, because we have a bunch of circumstances that are increasing the demand for electricity and a bunch of circumstances that are suppressing our ability to make it. But it's just complicated enough that I think that the Trump administration is like, chances are we are going to be seen as the party that's pro-energy because we're the party that's pro-fossil fuel. And all the people who are like, no, we have to change things for the environment, not for prices, but for bugs and polar bears. So those people are going to be seen as the ones who caused the problem because they're not like that pro-energy party. So it's like,
what's crazy is it meant nothing after it kept getting worse, with Trump admitting to sex trafficking and Mike Johnson saying he worked for the FBI and snitched on Epstein, and Mike closes the house. Bro, what Trump said outside that airplane, that was like some career-ending shit. I can't believe he admitted all of that. He gave him 2 girls. He gave him 2 girls. He said Epstein took one and we said don't do that, and then he took a second one and then we banned it. What the fuck? Why would you admit that? And then just remember that like nothing means anything. So for instance, an FBI informant is just somebody who's informed to the FBI one time. That's it. Doesn't mean they work for the FBI. It doesn't even mean they're a current informant. It doesn't really mean much of anything. However, if there is a single FBI informant on the Capitol lawn, that means all of Jan 6 was a staged fucking coup, right? All of it was artificially done by the intelligence agencies. All of it was artificially done by the FBI. It was all instigated. But when Trump is an FBI informant, apparently, against Epstein, that's like the most noble fucking shit in the universe. It's
like a win-win to intentionally increase prices for Americans. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining this. But
the FBI calls him Agent 007. 0 Epstein intel collected, 0 kids saved, 7 children raped.
like, is that how it's going to go? Now, I will leave you with the reality that
I haven't seen that. Can we watch that? Which thing?
I, in fact, cannot predict the future. And just because a bunch of people who invest in the stock market are betting on a future, very obviously, they think that this future is more likely than other futures. Doesn't mean that it will definitely happen. Like, the big thing that could happen that would prevent this is that AI collapses. And that would do 2 things. First, it would make all of that demand from data centers go away. Second, it would produce an economic recession, which also would decrease demand on the electricity grid. That's like the big thing that could happen that would make electricity prices not go up. Like, certainly there are elements of this as a bubble. There's a lot of speculation in the stock market around this, a lot of speculation in NVIDIA, a lot of speculation in companies building data centers. Like, it's not Apple and Microsoft building these data centers. It's independent funds of rich people trying to trying to get richer building them speculatively, almost like buying up tulip bulbs. And so it is totally possible that all this speculative data center building is a bubble that is going to pop. And in that case, this wouldn't happen. Like, I think that would be also bad because it would be very likely that a recession would follow because of how much of the world's money is currently tied up in the AI bubble. Like right now, in terms of like the value of the entire stock market, something like 20% of that is tied up in companies that are very exposed to artificial intelligence as a boom. And that's just the publicly traded stocks. That doesn't count, XAI and Claude and Anthropic and ChatGPT, which are all private companies that have, again, also huge many billion-dollar market caps. So I don't know. What's OpenAI's market cap? 300 billion? That's a lot. That's a lot. What's Apple's market cap? I guess it's in the trillions. 3 trillion. Okay, so it's a tenth the size of Apple.
What is?
That's a lot. That's a lot. What's Apple's market? Oh, huge many billion-dollar market caps. So I don't know. What's OpenAI's market cap? 300 billion.
Oh. Was this the one the guy in YouTube chat was asking for?
So, Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. So, Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. I'm just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them?
Were some of them young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
Why did he did the Kanye thing? Why he did he forget? Another good evidence of senility. Did he forget that he said he wasn't going to answer that?
What did they do?
In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa.
People?
Hired by him.
Hired.
In other words, gone.
Gone.
And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about
Other people would come and complain that he was taking people from the spa, but I didn't know that. What do you mean? You just said they complained about it.
I told them, I said, listen.
He said, oh, you're taking children? Because I think the girl's 15 or 16 or whatever. You're taking children from my spa, Epstein? Huh. Well, let me tell you, you better not take another one, okay? You better not take one more, all right? One or a few, that's enough. How many little girls do you need, okay? What are you, a streamer? Just kidding.
I don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine, and then not too long after that, he did it again, and I...
Why would you say this? No one even cares about this. What did this get, 10,000 views? Is this the original, or... Maybe this is the original? This got 10,000 views. No one cares.
I said, out of here. Not too long after that, he did it again, and I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa.
And then he confirms that one of the victim, I think they just died, killed themselves this year, whatever. Why would you? Oh.
I think so. I think that was one of the people, yeah. He stole her.
What the fuck?
And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know.
What? Yeah, because she fucking got...
None whatsoever.
It's just wild. A child worked at the spa? Yeah, well, I think she was 16 when she worked there, I think, right? It's just crazy, but no one gives a fuck, dude. These got no views. No one cares about any of this. Second video. What? When he says taking people, he means poaching employees, no? Yes, but that was the thing that Epstein did, right? Didn't he hired young girls and then eventually paid them for sex or whatever, right?
First time, I feel like I matter as an American.
Why does this chick look like Trinity?
I was only 14 years old when I met Jeffrey. It was the summer of high school. I was working 3 jobs to try to support my mom and my sister when a friend of mine in the neighborhood told me that I could make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare.
What the fuck?
Jeffrey assisted
Didn't Trump hire underage girls to give massages at Mar-a-Lago?
That I needed to be at the house so often. I make $300 to give an older guy a massage. It went from a dream job to the worst nightmare.
What the fuck? Didn't Trump hire underage girls to give massages at Mar-a-Lago?
That I needed to be at the house so often.
What the fuck?
For the first
Don't do this to me. Is Adam the retard or is Sitch the retard? So is this the standard now? We need to have wall-to-wall coverage every single time some insert group I don't like commits a murder? That's a terrible take. There are people who want to promote any sort of crime with a black perpetrator because they want to push negative stereotypes. And there are people who will refuse to cover or downplay any crime committed by a black perpetrator out of paralyzing fear of pushing negative stereotypes and desperation to not give the other side a win. These are all incredibly damaging to our society. Maybe, or why, what, I don't know if there was anything noteworthy about this murder. The guy seemed like a crazy homeless dude. He was black, sure. Hiding crime only makes the people pushing the story for racist reasons more persuasive, not less. Who's hiding it? It was published on like local news, right? Isn't that the only reason we know about it? So anytime there's not, every single time now, there's not wall-to-wall coverage of every single murder in this country, it means somebody's hiding it? I guess Sitch maybe is getting brain rotted by Adam. I don't know, whatever. Not to mention the obvious and outright insanity of labeling this woman Ukrainian. I would kill myself. Like, that's what it takes for you to give a fuck about Ukrainians dying? You have to bring them to the United States and have a black person kill them? Like, was that the secret all along? Holy fucking shit. Like, leftists only give a fuck when brown people are dying overseas, and conservatives only give a fuck when black people are killing people? What the fuck kind of world are we living in right now? Jesus Christ! That's a good quote. Destiny, you just don't get the complexities of centrism. True. One for Twitter. Why? It's more about the legal system hiding it. He was arrested 13 times, some of which were already violent felony charges. Yeah, people get arrested a lot. What do you, I mean, what... Unless you want to go through and say that, like, he should have been locked up for something or he should have done something. Like, yeah, people... Recidivism in the United States is really fucking bad. Hey, if you really want to kill yourself or if you really want to go after the system, lose a loved one to a drunk driver and look into their record and see how many times they got arrested for DUIs before. It's probably 5+ fucking times. Yeah, people get arrested a lot in this country and people repeat offend a lot in this country. It's pretty fucking wild. But I mean, like, you can go through the guy's record if you want. What do you want to, should he have been locked up at some point? Did a judge make a bad decision? Do you think that they just let him out because the judges are all softies? Or, I mean, you have to have a more specific criticism than just, well, he got arrested a lot, you know?
Billion? That's a lot. That's a lot. What's Apple's market cap? I guess it's in the trillions. 3 trillion.
Hey, Stephen Furtick. You're the biggest pastor in Charlotte, North Carolina, with tens of millions of social media followers. Why haven't you spoke out against the murder of Irina Zarutska? You posted to your millions of followers about George Floyd, yet won't mention Irina? Is that how you pronounce this? Why? Like, it's so fucking gross, dude. This is all they care about. They don't even care about this. They just want to shit on black people. Let's be real. Let's be based, okay? What are these retarded tweets? Sexual predator arrested. ICE New Orleans arrested Christian Soto Galeano, a citizen of Guatemala. His criminal history includes a conviction for indecent behavior with a juvenile and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. We stand ready to face any challenge, big or small. I read somewhere that he tried to get help saying he was worried about having a psychotic episode or something. Yeah, so here's a huge problem that we have in the US. I don't know how other countries deal with this. People who are mentally very unwell as adults are just very, 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 very hard to do anything about until they are. Because my understanding is that in order to, the only thing you can do is 72-hour commit them. But that's only if they are representing that they are an imminent threat to themselves or somebody else. Otherwise, they're just like shit out of luck. That's bad. I don't know. I don't know what to do about that. It's not... I don't know what to do about that. Some people are saying, or I've heard people say like to bring back asylums and everything. I don't know why we don't have those. Maybe they were inhumane or maybe there were good reasons those went away, but it seems like not good, not a good arrangement. Destiny, is a stall in people's wealth ever even manageable? How do you even talk to people about this? What? Americans are getting desperate. I'm going to crash the fuck out. I cannot survive like this. She says she works 40 hours a week and her husband works 50 hours a week.
How's everybody surviving? I get paid bi-weekly and we are a family of 4. We have 2 kids. How are y'all surviving? Because I'm not. I got paid today and it's gone. Goes toward the mortgage, cell phone bill, gas and electric, garbage, everything gone. Between insurance, car insurance between my husband and I, everything gone. And then I have to go to the grocery store. This isn't even factoring in groceries for a family of fucking 4. So imagine how it's like every month. It's like, do we go do a big load haul of groceries or do we pay our mortgage? Like I can't do both. And my husband works 50 hours a week.
Again, I don't want to, times might have changed and maybe people live different lifestyles. Being fully honest, and it might just be a thing. When I was working poor, groceries were never the thing you complain about. I've just never, ever heard this from people that have huge financial issues. Your 2 big payments, the things that fuck you in the ass, and she didn't even mention it, maybe they own it, is a car payment, is like 20% of you fucked in the ass, and then your rent or your mortgage is like the 70% fucked in the ass. And then you've got 10% of your money for jerk off money. But the idea that like you can't afford grocery, maybe, I don't know. I wish these people posted their budgets. I want to see the budget breakdown. I don't believe it.
I work 40 hours a week. We can't do both. So like, how are you doing it? The people that don't have kids are barely surviving. I am not surviving. I am not.
Actually, oh my God, I just had a brain blast. You know what? Maybe groceries were never a thing that me or any of my friends complained about because I always worked at restaurants. Oh no, because for carpet cleaning, that wasn't a restaurant. It was $2 and it was $2.14, I think. Was 2 double cheeseburgers and a glass of water. That was like my go-to. I lived off that shit for McDonald's for so long. That dollar menu, the $1 double cheeseburger, hell yeah.
Surviving, and I get paid bi-weekly. And people are like, oh, getting paid bi-weekly is so much better because then when you get paid more. No, it doesn't matter because all my fucking bills get taken out at the
Getting paid bi-weekly means you get paid more. Wait, what?
Same every month. I've tried to change it till the end of the month. It still doesn't matter. It still doesn't fucking matter. Weekly is so much better because then when you get paid more. No, it doesn't matter because all my fucking bills get taken out at the same every month. I've tried to change it till the end of the month. It still doesn't matter.
If you get paid at the end of the month, you should get paid a little bit more. Probably won't make that big of a difference, but you get paid a little bit more.
It still doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter when you have your bills taken out. Your money is fucked. Your money is gone. There's nothing you can do. You just have to fucking ride on this floating motherfucking rock and spend, $150 on 4 products at the goddamn grocery store. I can't. I literally cannot.
Yeah, I'm curious. What kind of a car is she in? This looks like a big vehicle.
I don't know how.
Wait, was she? Sorry, hold on.
Out. Your money is fucked. Your money still doesn't matter. It still doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter when you have your bills taken out. Your money is fucked. Your money is gone. There's nothing you can do. You just have to fucking ride on this floating motherfucking rock and spend, $150 on 4 products at the goddamn grocery store.
Damn, what's she buying? Wait, Destiny, am I stupid? Why would the timing of your paychecks affect how much you get paid? Because patience is a virtue, and if you wait a little bit longer, your big company rewards you with a slightly larger paycheck. My guess is your monthly paychecks would be bigger. The only reason I say this is because there were 2 months, and we would call them, these are your rich months. These are the ones where you go out and you fucking party hard, okay? You had 2 months of the year where you would get 3 paychecks because of the way the math works out. If you get paid bi-weekly, there are 52 weeks in a year. That's 26 paychecks. But there are 12 months. 12 and 12 is 24. Did I say 26? So there's 2 extra paychecks you need. So 2 months out of the year, you get 3 paychecks. So if you get paid if you get paid at the end of the month, my guess is those 2 paychecks should be like a little bit more. But it's going to be an inconsequential. It's not going to make that much of a difference, I think.
I can't. I literally cannot. I don't know how people do it. And unless you're a rich elite, we're fucked. So I hope everybody on this floating rock fucking screams like I do. And we can all fucking scream together, because I just like don't collectively know how I can continue on with a recession. I've lived through one recession. I physically can't do it now. And you can call me dramatic. I don't really give a fuck. I'm going to crash the fuck out. I cannot survive like this. I can't.
Okay. Lip filler, microbladed eyebrows, expensive makeup, professional hair, professional nails, and a new car with full coverage insurance. What is she buying at the grocery store? That's 4 items for $150. Based, true.
It's really no, because like it's really getting to a point. It's really getting to a point. Every time you leave your house, $50. Pay, buy, purchase, payment. Fuck. Gotta buy books. Gotta pay rent. You look up. You out of toothpaste. The next day you go get toothpaste. You out of soap. You go buy soap. Now you out of deodorant. You looked at your gas tank and you only have 5 miles left. The first is Monday. The first is Monday. It was just the first. It was just the first. I need a cigarette. I need God himself to come down and hand me 30 bands right now. Like this life. And then it wanted to do all of this when I become the adult. When I'm a grown up. Because I could have sworn back when I was 12, my mama was buying houses for $6. Like, grandma them paid 50 cents for their house, their down payment. Like, I can't even live with roommates for rent $1,000. Gas $50. Every time you pass by a gas station, look at the price of the gas. $3. $3? Is this California? What?
Why are Americans always buying such large cars? We love large cars. Don't you dare come for our big ass fucking cars. What you're looking at is the raw voice of collapse. Not charts, not Fed minutes, and not some sanitized headline. This is the lived fracture, the human core of an economy that has already failed. When a 2-income household working nearly 100 combined hours a week can't survive, the contract is broken. The entire premise of the American system was that we're guaranteed dignity and stability. That deal is gone. What's left is a machine that extracts until nothing remains, and people are realizing in real time that there is no way out through hard work. This is not isolated. Millions are living exactly this way. Paycheck to paycheck, one expense from ruin. Debt is the only buffer. When survival itself becomes impossible, racial slurs become necessary. I'm just kidding. Okay, we're good. Jesus Christ. If a random white person simply walked up to and stabbed a nice law-abiding black person for no reason, it would be an apocalyptically huge national story used to impose sweeping political changes on the whole country. Didn't a random white guy fucking shoot like 600 people in Las Vegas and literally nothing fucking happened from it? Like, do we all just collectively forget this? What the fuck is he talking about? Hello? What? Supreme Court formally permits racial profiling by ICE. Look at this justification, man. Moreover, as there stops of those individuals who are legally in the country, the questioning in those circumstances is typically brief, and those individuals may promptly go free after making clear to the immigration officers that they are U.S. citizens or otherwise legally in the United States. This... Well, I should ban you for a week. What, you really would link a picture of the ruling and you would post two links and neither link is to the ruling? Why would you do that? Oh, thank you. Isn't it crazy how the Supreme Court is not politically partisan at all, but somehow the liberals and the conservatives are always voting against each other? Oh, the Supreme Court formally permits racial profiling. Well, it looks like, so this was an application for a stay. This means that, what's the difference between a stay and a preliminary injunction? A stay just means that this is preliminary stuff though, that they're stopping a thing going into effect while the case proceeds, right? So it hasn't been ruled on formally yet, right? To be sure, I recognize and fully appreciate that many, not many, but not all, but many illegal immigrants come to the United States to escape poverty, blah, 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 and I understand that they may feel somewhat misled by the varying U.S. approaches to immigration enforcement over the last 3 decades, but the fact remains that under the laws passed by Congress and the President, they are acting legally by remaining in the United States, at least no Congress and the President chooses some of the legislators, and by illegally immigrating into and remaining in the country, they're not only violating immigration laws, but also jumping in front of those non-citizens who follow the rules made alone. For those reasons, the interests of illegal immigrants in evading questioning and thus evading detection of their legal presence are not particularly substantial as a legal matter. Moreover, as for stops of those individuals who are legally in the country, the questioning in those circumstances is typically brief, and those individuals may promptly go free after making clear to immigration officers that they are U.S. citizens. Excuse me, what amendment is it? Is it the Fourth Amendment? What is the what's the one for like the unencumbered by the state trying to fuck me in the ass for no reason? Oh yeah, give me my kids' pictures one. Not these two. The Fourth Amendment. Wait, I'm so curious what this is about. Well, it would depend on what the standard of evidence is for this stop. If they had a reasonable suspicion, like what you would need ordinarily to detain somebody and to do questioning, then I'd be okay with this, depending upon what does reasonable suspicion count as for questioning somebody about their immigration status. Because it can't just be like skin color. Page 5 talks about what is needed for reasonable suspicion. Thank you. Page 3, 4, 5. To stop an individual for brief questioning about immigration status, the government must have reasonable suspicion that the individual is illegally present in the United States. Reasonable suspicion is a lesser requirement than probable cause and considerably short of the preponderance of the evidence standard, of course. Whether an officer has a reasonable suspicion depends on the totality of the circumstances. Here, those circumstances include that there is an extremely high number and percentage of illegal immigrants in the LA area, that those individuals tend to gather in certain locations to seek daily work, that those individuals often work in certain kinds of jobs, such as day labor, landscaping, agriculture, and construction, that do not require paperwork and are therefore especially attracted to illegal immigrants, and that many of those illegally in the LA area come from Mexico or Central. Wait, what? This is just profile. This is like, wait, what? This is a meme, right? To be clear, apparent ethnicity alone cannot furnish reasonable suspicion under this court's case law regarding immigration stops. However, it can be a relevant factor when considered along with other salient factors. I mean, I can agree with that maybe, but the salient factors have to be more than just, I'm in LA and this guy is doing roofing, or I'm in LA and this guy is in landscaping. This, I don't understand. This means that every single brown person that I see working in Southern California in construction, landscaping, agriculture, all of these people can be stopped and you can ask them for their papers. And if the person can't provide, does a state ID in California do you need to show citizenship for that? You need what would you need? A birth certificate? That's fucking wild. After this whole break, why does he have to choose a shit-ass game like Expedition 33 to play? Excuse me, that game got mad hype, motherfucker. What do you mean shitty game? It seems like a pretty base game. The music, was it all live recorded? Music is cool. They tried really hard on that. I think the combat system so far is pretty cool. Trying to work in like QTEs plus skill-based dodges plus turn-based. I like turn-based. I think it's cute. Here's a random question. Somebody must have accounted for this. I'm just stupid. I feel like for games, why is it that it feels like they always record all of the audio in like recording booths, but then they never do anything to the audio to make it sound more organic when the characters are talking to each other? Like if you watch
So what's it on every artbook you've ever dared to love anybody that
This isn't even a good example. Fuck. Like when characters are outside talking to each other, the way that the voice sounds is different than when they're indoors talking to each other, you know? Like it sounds outside, it sounds inside. There's a different like resonance, reverberation of people speaking inside. It feels like for video games, they never do anything to the... I understand you wouldn't go on like site, you wouldn't go outside and record vocals that way, but they can't like... There's like EQ, or not EQ, there's like effects that you can add. It's always something that bothers me with games, VA, I think. I don't know. Do you remember EAX? I don't know what the fuck that means.
Up for their landing. Why else would we hold it in Queens?
Thank God Kay was here to make sure that he passed, because he definitely would have made it through on his own. Under this court's precedents, not to mention common sense, these circumstances taken together can constitute at least reasonable suspicion of illegal presence in the United States. Importantly, reasonable suspicion means only that immigration officers may briefly stop the individual and inquire about immigration status. That's crazy to me. So we're saying that every single brown person, I'm not exaggerating. I don't exaggerate. I'm not exaggerating. But like taken at face value, this means that every single brown person working in day labor, landscaping, agri-construction in LA or in Southern California or in all of California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, I guess, Southern Texas, could be stopped by an immigration officer, requested to show proof of their citizenship. And then if they don't have that proof, they could be arrested? What happens if somebody can't produce a document showing that they're a fucking US citizen? Like the whole point of this is supposed to be one of my coolest rights as an American. Listen, okay, we don't have any left right now.
Episode covers police department in Ocean.
Am I free to go?
Fuck, is there like a non... I don't need an audit the audit. Where's just the original video on this? Ugh, short.
This officer tries to arrest...
Damn, hello.
What?
Why are you giving me the finger?
Oh.
I'm walking away. Huh? Am I free to go?
Why are you giving me the finger?
Am I free to go?
No.
For what reason?
This kid flipped the cop off. Cop called his buddy to come and interrogate him. I don't think the kid ever shows him an ID, does he? He doesn't have to.
Singular, that's singular. Well, I'd like to see you guys prove it in court.
It's called...
You can flip off a cop. You don't tell a cop to fuck off. It's a cop. You have to have a reason to stop. You need a reasonable suspicion of a crime that has been committed or is being committed to stop, to detain somebody and question them and ask for an ID and shit. If you don't have that shit, you fuck
behavior
off.
that's out of the ordinary.
I understand how it works.
So therefore,
legally,
he stopped
it would not
to talk to you. Clearly, if he stopped all the way back there, I'm assuming you guys were back there and you just continued to walk.
We went back a bit further
and you
back.
just continued to walk.
I wasn't running. I told you that I was free to go, and you all of a sudden
stop, and you ran down here.
I wasn't running. I was walking.
Once he
So
gives an order for you to stop, you're supposed to stop.
I did stop when he originally said it, but I was asking, is it illegal? Is it a lawful?
And he took off.
Yeah, because I kept walking because you weren't pursuing at the first.
Yep.
You only started pursuing because I said, fuck you, pig. That's when you got a little upset.
Okay, so
you got his panties in the pants.
We're here at this point now, okay? You've brought the attention to yourself. You've caused the public alarm.
Yep.
So now...
Well, I'd like to see you legally hold that in court, because...
I'm not charging you with anything, so I don't legally need to hold anything in court.
Well,
okay, what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out why you're walking on the side of the road, okay, and why you're continuing to signal to a police officer.
I wasn't signaling.
Okay.
See, now you changed the story. Now you're changing the story. Was I signaling, or which one was it?
So what were you doing?
Well, I want to know from your perspective. What was I
pulled up onto the scene, so you tell me what you were doing.
To bring you attention. I plead the fifth. You fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot, dude. Okay. How long have you been a cop? 6?
Longer than you. Listen.
Longer than you? I'm not a cop, retard.
Listen.
He is a retard.
You're fucking retarded,
He is fucking retarded.
Listen.
Yep. Order, then I take it to court.
Your name.
Okay.
No. Okay.
Oh no, the kid did give him the ID. He didn't need to. I think he does, but...
Tuckering's been on back order for a month.
The idea that a cop could walk up to you and demand papers for... I'm sorry, but this is just so fucking unhinged. It's 31 pages. Is it worth reading? Is there some other context here that I'm missing, or... The idea that you can just walk up to somebody who's brown and demand papers from them to prove their citizenship is just wild to me. This is what I imagine you act like anytime you get pulled over. I'm the most polite motherfucker in the world, because if I got pulled over, I was probably speeding. So I need to act polite if I'm going to get out of a ticket. Is relevant here. Officers may stop an individual only if they are aware of specific articulable facts, together with rational inferences from those facts that reasonably warrant suspicion that the individual may be illegally in the country. This requires more than an inchoate, I don't know how to pronounce this shit.
Inchoate,
an unparticularized suspicion or hunch of criminal activity. Critically, a set of facts cannot constitute reasonable suspicion if it describes a very large category of presumably innocent people. Like, that was one thing, yeah, when Kavanaugh up here says that wait, hold on. Here, those circumstances include that there is an extremely high number and percentage of illegal immigrants in the LA area, that those individuals tend to gather in certain locations to seek daily work. When we're looking at day labor, landscaping, agriculture, construction, if it was like what is the percentage of these workers that are illegal immigrants? Because the way that Kavanaugh is phrasing it makes it sound like, what, like 90% of these people are illegal? 50%? At Destiny, that's pretty wild. What level of evidence do you need in stop and identify states? Is that a thing? Is there a stop and identify state where you have to show an ID? Stop and identify. I feel like we argued about this before, and I said the answer was no, but it ended up being in some states you do have to. No, you still need reasonable suspicion for these. You can't just stop. You can't encumber somebody. It's my Fourth Amendment, bruh. My Fourth Amendment, okay? I've only got like 30 of them, okay? Don't take them from me. Wait, I don't know. Hold on. How many amendments are there? What was the last amendment? 27. 27th Amendment. Prevents changes to Congress members' salaries from taking effect until the next election of the House. Oh, 1992. God damn. Proposed by James Madison in 1789. Loser. Hold on, I got one more energy one.
In early November, Europe experienced one of the most intense Dunkelflaute events in history. A Dunkelflaute is when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, so this affects electricity production, but most of all, it causes executives in the energy industry to post doom and gloom about how we should panic and give them extra subsidies. But from all of the information that I've been able to gather when it comes to this panic, I don't believe a word of it. In this video, I'll explain why, so hello YouTube, I'm Michael Size, and I'll split my analysis into 3 layers. Layer 1 is keeping it simple. We're just gonna look at what the highest historical level of demand was on the European grid and run a simulation to see whether that demand could be fulfilled with the resources of today. And we're doing—
Wait, European power in general is a lot more expensive than US power, right? Was there a reason for that? Is it just because we have a lot of domestic energy production in the US?
This in a scenario of no sun and no wind. The highest level of demand ever occurred on February 28th, 2018 at 442 gigawatts of peak power and—
Doesn't this ruling say the reasonable cause isn't skin color, it's working in a profession that commonly has illegal workers? Yeah, taken together, yeah, but that's unhinged. He names 4 pretty huge professions. It makes it sound like anybody working in agriculture, construction, day labor, whatever the 4th one was, and they're brown can be stopped and demanded, and there can be a demand for them to produce like citizenship proof. And then if they don't have it, they can be arrested?
399 gigawatts of average power over the 24-hour period. That's the demand side, and here's what it looks like on a chart. Now, on the actual date of the event, the grid had up to 90 gigawatts of wind and solar supply, and we're trying to figure out what would happen if instead that number was 0. So let's look at the other power sources. I'm going to make my own system of categorization for the power resources, and the first item on the list is a category which I'll simply call dispatchables. And this basically means thermal and nuclear. Europe has 94 gigawatts of installed nuclear power, and 303 gigawatts of thermal power, which is mostly gas and coal, for a total of 397 gigawatts of dispatchable power. The second item on the list is what I'll call uninterruptible power, which includes all of the power plants that cannot be turned off, and I'm going to include them at their minimum demonstrated power. We have several things here, and first off we have a certain type of hydro power plant which is called run of the river, which is a terrible name, so I'll be calling it cascade hydro, and the minimum power of this appears to be about—
Are they charged or are they protected? Well, they wouldn't be charged with a crime unless— I need to learn the difference between— you can be arrested for a crime but not like formally charged with a crime yet, right? I think you have 72 hours for your arraignment, so they could arrest you while they investigate, and then if they don't want to, then they wouldn't charge you with a crime. They'd probably while you're arrested and in jail, they'd probably do a background check or something at that point.
6 gigawatts. Also in this category we have biomass, which people like to joke that it's burning trees, and if it were burning trees then it would be dispatchable, but this is mostly biogas and particular forms of waste incineration, and the way that these power plants are set up, they really not dispatchable, they can be turned off, and their minimum power is also about 6 gigawatts. In addition, we have actual waste incineration, about 1.5 gigawatts, and believe it or not, we also have half a gigawatt of geothermal, so that's cool. And finally, another 3 gigawatts of nobody knows, apparently, but it's there and it's real, so it's going in this category as well. In total then, we have 17 gigawatts of uninterruptible power. The next item is going to be storage, and
it's called detained. Well, detained is supposed to be like a temporary, and then you're kind of like pushed along afterwards. If it's just for a significant amount of time, if your car is getting towed, if they take you somewhere else, that's an arrest. Like, you're never detained in a jail. You're arrested and taken to jail.
And finally, another 3 gigawatts of nobody knows, apparently, but it's there and it's real, so it's going in this category as well.
What is this, ghost energy?
In total, then, we have 17 gigawatts.
Dustin, you are technically in suspicion of a crime during a detainment. Yeah, sure, yeah, that's the reasonable suspicion standard, right?
Of uninterruptible power. The next item is going to be storage, and Europe doesn't have a lot of batteries, but it does have a lot of pumped hydro. 39 gigawatts of installed capacity, of which 22 gigawatts is proven peak capacity for charge and discharge historically. It also has a real-life round-trip efficiency of over 100%, apparently, which I think is happening because some of these facilities are built on rivers, so they self-recharge to some extent, but in my simulation I'm going to assume 90%. And because this is pumped storage as opposed to batteries, energy capacity shouldn't be an issue, so I'm just going to assume it's effectively infinite in my simulation. And last but certainly not least, we have the hydro reservoirs, which technically have 59 gigawatts of dispatchable power, but it's weird because we also have to account for minimum river flows, and we have to account for their limited energy capacity, because if you were to run them at 59 gigawatts all the time, you'd just be drying up the reservoir. So instead, the reservoirs are going to be modeled as 5 gigawatts uninterruptible and 54 gigawatts dispatchable, with the constraint that dispatchable energy cannot exceed 216 gigawatt hours per day, which is a constraint that I came up with by studying the year of 2022, which was the worst European drought in 500 years. With all of these categories understood, we can start building the simulation, and our first iteration looks like this.
If someone is attempting to get day work and they cannot speak English, that might be probable cause. Just raking leaves would not be grounds for possible probable cause. Not probable cause, reasonable suspicion. And it sounds like, based on what Kavanaugh wrote, if somebody was outside raking leaves and they were brown and their English wasn't that good, then that would be reasonable suspicion for a cop to ask you for an immigration officer to ask you for your papers.
What we have here is 22 gigawatts uninterruptible, 216 gigawatt hours per day of dispatchable discharge from reservoirs, 22 gigawatts of real pumped storage power capacity with 90% round-trip efficiency, and we're optimizing the simulation such that it gives us the minimum peak load on thermal plus nuclear possible under these constraints. The black line at the top is the power demand throughout this 24-hour period, and wherever you see the stacked colors going above the black line, that means that the extra power is going into refilling the pumped storage. So this is happening during the nighttime here. The result of this simulation is that the highest level of demand in history can be covered with 0 wind and 0 solar by running the thermal plus nuclear power plants at a capacity factor of 95.4%, even if we constrain the hydropower plants to the worst drought in 500 years. Now, if you've never seen nuclear plus thermal run at 95.4% capacity, well, neither has anyone else, and this had me second guessing.
But isn't that kind of reasonable? What else would be reasonable suspicion of an immigration issue? Well, the problem is you're going to encumber a lot of innocent people unfairly, right? Like if you're brown now and you do outdoor work, like an immigration officer can walk up to you and ask you for your papers. That's a pretty insane thing as an American citizen or a green card holder that you'd just be expected to tolerate. That's pretty crazy.
Myself. So I looked up the definition to see what the installed capacity actually means. Now, different grid operators probably have slightly different definitions, but as far as I was able to find, the installed capacity that we see here is defined as the maximum long-duration active power that the generator can deliver into the network while respecting mechanical and electrical safety conditions, net of internal consumption, and the net of transformer losses. So the powers are real. And in fact, while we have never seen this kind of capacity factor for the grid as a whole, individual nuclear power plants often work at 100% or more for months on end, and individual combined cycle gas turbine power plants often work in the 90 to 100% range for weeks on end. So personally, I'm confident that this definition—
Have you read the Atlantic article about kicking out leftists out of Dems already? Nope.
—is accurate and the powers are real, which means that we have found a workable solution. And if this doesn't give you confidence in the grid, then I don't know what will. But let me tell you, this scenario is unrealistically restrictive for at least 3 reasons. Number 1 is seasonality, because we have taken a demand profile that occurred in late winter, but for all of the uninterruptible supply, we have used the minimum power which occurs in late summer. So if we were to actually synchronize these, I would put the minimum supply of cascade hydro at 15 gigawatts and not 6, the minimum supply of biomass at 8 gigawatts and not 6, and the minimum supply of reservoir hydro at 10 gigawatts and not 5. And suddenly our uninterruptible supply is now 48 gigawatts and not 22.
Not gonna lie, I'm gonna laugh when Republican Puerto Ricans are asked to produce citizenship. Oh, my friend, I love and I appreciate your naivety. But they would proudly produce it and they would say, well, I'm not guilty of anything, so I have nothing to hide.
So when we run the simulation again, we see that our thermal plus nuclear now peaks at 89% of capacity. Number 2 is solar, because wind can go to 0, and that's a fact, but solar in a 24-hour period cannot go to 0, and that's a fact as well. So if we also add in the worst solar day of 2024, which was January 17th, we further drop the peak to 87% of capacity, and of course the average solar day has like 5 times this amount. And number 3 is that we've completely ignored the dispatchable component of cascade hydro, because the dams involved may be very small, but not 0, and basically this source can go go between 15 and 25 gigawatts at this time of year, and it can stay above 20 gigawatts for 16 hours each day. And what I've done to simplify so far is that I've completely ignored all of the energy that exists above the 15 gigawatt line. So what we can do to fix this is simply add a very conservative 40 gigawatt hours per day to the limit of the reservoirs, and that brings our dispatchable peak down again to 86% of capacity. These adjustments are important because I can see how some people would be skeptical that the 95.4% capacity figure from the first simulation is actually possible in practice, even though it should be based on the definitions, but I really don't think anyone can be reasonably skeptical of 86% capacity. So that's our first layer of analysis done, and I would say that it's a success. In terms of power and energy, the European grid today can supply the highest demand in history, even under the harshest of constraints. So moving on then, layer 2 is transmission. The problem is that so far we've talked about the European grid as if it were one homogeneous bus bar with infinite transmission capacity from one end of the continent to the other, but this is not the case. The transmission capacity is limited, and so the power production has to be fairly evenly distributed with respect to the power demand if we want my simulations from earlier to actually be representative of reality. So how evenly is the existing dispatchable capacity distributed? The answer is that it's fairly even. I've tried to compile a chart showing which countries in Europe would be able to function at peak historical capacity without blackouts and without imports in a Dunkelflaute, and my results show that there are only 3 countries that would encounter problems with this. They are Hungary, Luxembourg, and Finland, but of these 3, Hungary and Luxembourg are intentionally running a strategy of perpetual imports, so they have it figured out, and we really only have one country of concern out of 27 member states. I'd say that this is a good start if transmission can cover the difference, so how limited is cross-border transmission in Europe? Well, the answer is that it's not very limited at all. I think it would be fair to say that Europe has the strongest and the most reliable grid in the world at this sort of a geographical size. And what this means is that when you see something like Bulgaria importing 10% of its electricity supply from Romania, which imports it from Hungary, which imports it from Slovakia, which imports it from Czechia, which imports it from Germany, which generates it in the North Sea, you should not be taking that as a sign of Bulgaria's weakness, not at all. They could generate all of their own power if they wanted to, but on windy weekends, it's simply cheaper to import it from across the continent. So what you should really interpret these events as is a sign of strength of the European grid and the European single market. So based on this chart, I would say that transmission is not an issue, and in fact, in the scenario of a late winter 500-year drought to Dunkelflaute, transmission is going to work for us and not against us. So the second layer of analysis seems like a success as well. For layer 3, I want to look at the future, because everything looks...
Yeah, what happened in France? Why is it that in France, every time there's a heat wave, all your old people die? At Destiny, what is a reasonable path forward to combat a bad Supreme Court decision that seemingly goes against the Constitution? Then you amend the Constitution, or you pass a new law from Congress, but we're incapable of doing either of those at the moment, so...
capacitized and stable today, but how about for, say, the next decade? Starting with transmission, the Union has something known as projects of common interest, and these include lots of cross-border connections, as well as upgrades to existing grids, and even internal routes that facilitate a better utilization of existing cross-border routes. Some of the projects in this list are also going to solve the power problem in Finland, by the way, and these interconnections will help a lot with wind and solar energy, but the other crucial component for the wind and solar strategy is storage. European pumped hydro is fairly built out at this point, so I don't expect much growth there, but in terms of battery storage, Europe has barely gotten started. There are a few medium-scale battery projects already in operation, and most of the rooftop solar projects built today come with battery storage included, but in addition to all of this, we've recently heard that German transmission operators are seeing over 160 gigawatts of batteries in the interconnection queue, and it sounds like they're expecting at least 70% of these to actually go through construction. So in terms of accommodating the increase in renewables, I think we have very good reasons to believe that storage and transmission are not going to be limiting factors for Europe. And with so many batteries, shorter duration peak power is never going to be an issue, and network stability is not going to be an issue either, no matter how much spinning mass we might lose. But there is one more question to study here. It goes like this. We know that unlike most of the world, Europe will never be able to run on 100% solar, and that means that Europe will always need wind, but we also know that wind can experience severe multi-day lows, which means that Europe will always need large-scale, long-duration dispatchable capacity, and that's a role that batteries simply can't fulfill. They're great for shorter duration. Basically what this says is that Europe will always need to burn stuff, whether it's fossil fuels before 2050 or biofuels and synthetic fuels beyond 2050. But how do we know that Europe is even going to have the power plant capacity to burn that fuel with? The answer to this is the deregulated energy market. Europe has a deregulated energy market, and I know that a lot of people don't like to hear this for some reason, but it's a fact. And the market trades not only the electricity for the day ahead, but it actually trades futures for the next 6 years. What this means is that electricity companies have a very clear picture of what the grid is going to look like over the next 6 years. And because this is a free market, if any electricity shortages were to happen, the first electricity company to be able to close this gap would be capturing profits and market share, and everybody else would be losing market share, losing profit opportunities, and perhaps even losing actual money if they have to pay these other companies to cover their power obligations. It's ruthless capitalism, and this sort of deregulated market system was designed and refined for this purpose of taking the government out of the equation. So you can see why I'm highly skeptical when I hear one of these energy executives asking the state to get back into the equation, dooming and glooming about spinning mass and firming capacity or even the climate goals, when in reality all of this is already priced in using transparent commodity markets. The whole discussion was started by a LinkedIn post from the CEO of RWE, claiming that at the beginning of this month, the German electricity supply reached its limits, and if we look at what actually happened on that day, when wind reached the lowest production level since 2014, well, you're literally gonna think I'm joking, but on that day, Germany's thermal power plants were running at 49% of capacity compared to a normal November day when they run at 43% of capacity. They had 36 gigawatts of thermal power plants in reserve, and CEO here says that 4 gigawatts were unavailable, which leaves 32 gigawatts, and imports on...
Okay. Comer vows accountability. Trump rips scandal after bombshell report on Biden autopen pardons. Chairman James Comer said the House Oversight Committee's autopen probe is in its final stages. Oh boy. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer said his panel is wrapping up its investigation into President Joe Biden's use of the autopen after a new report revealed concerns raised within the former administration itself. Wow. New records reveal President Biden's own administration raised concerns about autopen use to grant thousands of pardons. This is a historic scandal with massive repercussions. As President Biden declined, his aides carried out executive actions without his approval, casting doubt on the legitimacy of thousands of pardons and other executive actions. Do you normally sign every single pardon? Do you think Trump signed every single pardon for the Gen 6 people? Or do you think, or is it just like one broad memo? That's why his hand was bruised. Jesus. Isn't it just one big document with all the names? I mean, you can see the presidential pardons, United States. I know that you could see them individually. But maybe for like huge ones, maybe they're... Oh. Oh, he did it via executive order? These were for the big sentences. Good one. Like, this is what you see normally for an individual pardon. But there's no way for, like, all the J6 people that he did, like, over 1,000 of these, no? There's no shot. But I don't know if you can just list a bunch of people. Are they saying Biden didn't approve them and then the staff used autopen for them? Or that if he approved them but didn't sign them manually, they don't count? So the the Republicans project onto Biden what is probably happening with Trump right now, which is that Biden was so senile and out of his fucking mind that there was like a shadow state, dark secret government, deep state that was running everything behind the scenes. And so the autopen was a way for them to just like say, okay, Grandpa, we're going to sign these for you now. Haha, wink, wink. And then they do the autopen thing to sign it. That's why they're trying to prove this autopen point so hard. They're not trying to prove the autopen. They don't give a fuck about that. What they're trying to prove is that Biden wasn't acting in capacity as the president, probably so that they could make the argument that some of the actions, executive actions or pardons were illegitimate, so that they could unwind them and then go after people that Trump wants to go after. Okay, what else? Hold on. Aftermath of Hyun, how did that one lady say it? Hyun? Hyundai LG ice raid. Is Mazda project dead on arrival? Shin Hae-soon, sales manager at Moja Factory and lead coordinator of the Mazda hat project, poses during an interview with the Hanguk Ilbo in Seoul Wednesday. Is it saying they want to pull the project or something? Could you extend that argument to legislation he signed as well, potentially declaring it invalid? I mean, if they want to, I guess. They're kind of doing it whatever they want. Yeah, I saw this. House Democrats released sexually suggestive letter to Jeffrey Epstein, purportedly signed by Trump, which he's denied. Voiceover, there must be more to life than having everything. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is, nor will I, since I know what it is. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. We do. Come to think of it, enigmas never age. If you thought of that, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. Something. Be another wonderful secret. Donald J. Trump. This just in. Israel's Channel 12 reports that U.S. President Trump has tasked his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, with putting together a post-war plan for Gaza. Oh boy. Uh-oh.
Mother
Dexter, but it's an anime dub part 2. It came directly from Epstein's state attorney from a House committee subpoena, so it's real. Yeah, I don't believe that it's fake. People are going to use it to say that this proves that child fucking shit. I just don't think it ever happened. I think we would have known by now, but...
Surprise, motherfucker! Are you following me now? You better have a hell of a reason for being here. I'm looking for my sister. In a cargo box? Yeah, I'm kind of working on a theory. You forget you work for the fucking cops! We love theories. Come on, spin me a story, asshole! What I do on my time is my business, Sergeant. Yeah, me too. And I'm on my time now. There's no lieutenant here to save your ass. So don't fuck with me, Morgan. All right, you got me. I ordered some furniture from Thailand, and I was waiting for it to be delivered. Lab geek my ass.
Okay, Jesus. Wait. See what else I have open.
Right here, right now on Mirage. Oh!
That's the shot heard around the world, baby.
Woo! Tonight.
I do that shit all the time.
On Mirage,
Not even impressive. This guy's a Zionist piece of shit.
Through the years, said and been involved in things that I've later said was misunderstood, and some things that I regretted. Mrs. Coretta Scott King told me, you got to watch language, got to watch what you say. Now, let's talk about anti-Semitism. New York City is the home of the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. The mayor must build a relationship, whoever the mayor becomes, trust in all communities of the city. The term globalized the intifada has become a flashpoint for Jewish New Yorkers who say they're concerned about how your views on the Israeli-Gaza conflict will influence how you govern the city. You said on Meet the Press in July, that's not language you would use, but you don't want to police the speech of others.
Do you think after the court case is over, you can have your lawyer come on stream and talk about the case from his point of view? I don't think that's ordinary or normal. I doubt it. I doubt he would.
We both know words matter. The Department of Defense means something different than the Department of War. I've experienced this throughout my own civil rights career, and I've had to correct myself to deal with what people receive may not be what I meant. And words have consequences, and sometimes we need to examine our own positions to build unity. Has your personal views on the phrase of global intifada changed since you've been running for mayor? Do you understand those that see it in a more threatening way than saying, I'm just not going to police other people's language?
Yes, they have. And you know, when we won the primary election, I said on that stage that I know that millions of New Yorkers care deeply about what happens in Israel and Palestine, and I'm one of those New Yorkers. And I commit to reaching even further to understand disagreement, to wrestle with the complexities of those differing viewpoints. Because what this city deserves is a mayor that looks not only to represent the close to 600,000 New Yorkers that voted for me, but rather the 8.5 million people that call this city home. And in the meetings that I've had since that moment, I've met with Jewish elected officials, with rabbis, with community leaders. And there was one rabbi that spoke to me about how that phrase, for her, brought back memories of bus bombings in Haifa, of restaurant attacks in Jerusalem. And I knew that from what she was sharing with me that she had a fear, as she said, that could come home to New York City. And so in having that conversation with her, I knew that the gap between the intent that I've heard some New Yorkers share with the use of that language of calling for the end of the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land was disconnected from the impact it was having in that same conversation I was having with that rabbi. And so I have said, after having that conversation, that this is language I would discourage.
Now, you've been running on the platform of affordability.
Yikes, what a fucking idiot. Jewish people have no empathy. You cannot ever consider any perspective from a Jewish person at all. What a moron. Yeah, I thought they were supposed to wait to turn on him until after the election. Jesus. Hold on. 1 second, I'm grabbing a Red Bull. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Chad, can you hear me? Hey. Chat, it's good to see y'all today. You guys excited? This is Kafka Esquire. Birdman, I heard we hate you now. Yeah, apparently I'm now the enemy. So, I also learned this today. Apparently now I am an enemy of DGG. I'm so sorry. Germs be ketchup, mayo, or mustard. Ketchup is my preferred condiment. Too much cyanide. Where is Zip Zip? He's probably arguing on Discord somewhere. Monkey hurt. My voice sounds extra pretty today. Thank you.
All right, what's up, babe?
Second. Just soaking in all of the attention from chat. Hey, we've got a new edition or a new volume of Pragmatic Papers, number 26. Everybody should go check it out. Yeah, there's some good stuff in there. We have, I'm going to start with the article that I think you would be most interested in. It's the article about Sam Francis, the strategist of resentment politics by Blakely B. It's about how evil the middle class is, and about this guy named Sam Francis, who kind of formed the modern GOP strategy of whipping up and using the misinformed and self-victimized middle class to kind of get what you want from a conservative perspective. So kind of focuses like on how the strategy was used by Reagan and then moving forwards. Reason Riffs has 2 articles out. First one is A Wild Week in UK Politics, an Election, a Scandal, and a Downfall. He actually gives like some really good like bite-sized chunks of kind of the goings on in UK politics. I actually really liked it just because it was like, I'm not super clued in on that stuff, but it would kind of made it easy for me to kind of know what's going on in like a short burst. And then his other article was 1992, Russia's Rare Admission of Intent to Destabilize the West. I really like this one. It was really good. It's about Putin and Russia and how they both are really primed for the information age that followed the fall of the USSR. And it kind of like leads into the Ukrainian war and how they're using their tools inherited from the USSR on social media and the world stage to kind of be more powerful or more influential than they really should be for a state of that size. There's also Abundance's Big Misdiagnosis. Jay Chow Live takes on everybody's favorite book, Abundance, and talks about how, you know, there are a lot of problems that are identified in there that do need to be fixed, but they don't really match on to the presidential race in the way that Ezra Klein seems to argue, and how kind of a lot of those problems aren't, they should be addressed, but they aren't necessarily people saying like, that's why I'm not going to vote for Kamala, right? They talk about kind of how minorities were and their changing in views was a bigger perspective, and that really it comes back to democratic messaging rather than kind of democratic policy, which I think is I think that's a really good argument. I don't think that Democrats are losing policy wise, and that's why they lost the election, and I don't think that Biden could have policied his way into getting a second term or helping Kamala get a second term. It really is just kind of how we're messaging and engaging with the public rather than kind of just saying, well, maybe if we get enough homeless people off the street, they'll vote for us this time. And then do you not believe that?
No, I think I largely agree that Biden couldn't have policied it without everything. I read this sentence by him saying, Ezra Klein insists that messaging isn't the problem. Is that really true? That's crazy, because I feel like democratic messaging is not that great. But I saw that sentence. It's interesting to me.
That
Sorry,
might be
man.
a bit hyperbolic. It might just be that it feels like Ezra Klein is making a far stronger argument towards policy rather than messaging. But I don't know. I don't really enjoy Ezra Klein's voice. I don't listen to a lot of his stuff. I know you guys all like him.
Wow.
I just don't. I don't know. That stuff all is really boring to me. The stuff that he talks about.
Okay.
That meaning that everybody else can enjoy it and all that stuff, just not for me. So then let's see. The last article was "Spend the Money to Find the Deep State" by I Have Eaten Foliage. I actually got to talk to this author earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
They are from the DGG political activism Discord. This is just, I actually really liked this article in that it's them saying there's a problem with our media environment. It needs to change. And here's one idea to do it. Right. And so they're saying on one hand, they want to try to set up kind of system where there's like a federal grant or kind of like subsidy to news outlets that put a certain percentage of their expenses into journalism specifically and not editorial work, right? So if you meet this threshold where you are doing journalistic work, you are bringing in news of current events, of like maybe investigative journalism, things like that, you would get access to these government funds. And then in doing so, that would open you up to certain regulations of your media as well. And then on the other side, another one is that it would then say, like, if you take this money, you also have to have like public discussion. So you'd have to have comment sections or public comment availability for any kind of stuff you put out. And so it's just kind of, it's trying to say, how can we create some like guidelines without totally rewriting the Constitution to somehow kind of start pulling our press and our media away from this environment where everybody's just kind of throwing whatever garbage out they can just to get advertising dollars, right? Because right now it feels like that's the only motive that exists in our media environment.
Have you ever watched, wait, do you play music at all?
I played piano for a really long time, but I'm not very good at it, and I don't really enjoy music that much.
Fuck you. Oh, that's a sociopath statement. Have you ever seen the TED Talk with the classical piano player, musician guy?
Can you give me more context?
Benjamin Zander. This guy on stream?
Sure, I don't think so.
Probably not.
I've actually seen him. I've seen like his face before. I recognize this person, but I don't know if I've seen this talk.
He says something to the audience that I found to be true growing up. I guess I don't know how true it is anymore. But basically, like, somebody says, like, do you like classical music? You say, oh, yeah, of course, I love classical music. Yeah, or it's good. Yeah, for sure. And then if somebody starts playing something, you fall asleep, right? It's boring as fuck, right? But you kind of have to say you like it because it's culture. And then if you don't like it, you feel even worse, I think that the biggest issue with our media environment right now is all of I keep saying this like it's a new phenomenon, but I guess it's probably happened throughout all of history, is people keep saying they want a thing, but they don't really want that thing, but they want the aesthetic of wanting that thing. I think that anything that we do with media to change it to be better is going to be difficult because whatever we do is going to make it far less popular and far less consumed. And people are going to assume that means that it's failing. But the reality is that right now people turn to media as a source of entertainment and truth confirmation, not like good reporting. And to change it, we would have to be honest with ourselves about what it is like the average person even wants from a media environment. Like people that watch a lot of like alternative media stuff or crazy shit, they're not really looking for news. They're looking for a form of like groupthink, cultural, reaffirmation about beliefs they already hold. It's not the same thing as getting like an AP or Reuters on the ground report of stuff going on in some country. It's like a form of entertainment that uses media as like the medium kind of. Like for example, what if I told you like if you asked me like, oh, do you like sports? I go, oh my god, I love sports. And you're like, oh, what's your favorite team? And I'm like, the Titans from Remember the Titans. And it's like, do you watch football or whatever? And I start rattling off a bunch of football movies. I'm not really a sports fan, right? I'm a movie fan, but I like it when the movies are about sports. But you would never call me a sports fan, right? The same thing happens with media, I think. Like people don't really like listening to the news. They like listening to Joe Rogan and Tim Pool, but this is not like media or journalism,
Well, yeah, and I did put it to I've Eaten Foliage. I really put it to him because I don't I don't disagree with their ideas in here. I'm just more of an extremist when it comes to this. I think, and so I kind of put some of those to them. And their idea really is about what it would be is like each.
I'm not necessarily saying, to be clear, I'm not saying this guy's wrong. I'm just saying that before this even happens, people have to be honest about what it is they even want from media. Yeah.
Well, right, and I think that, and I might not have portrayed his idea fairly here, is that in it is that each American would essentially have a voucher that they would give to the news organization that they like, and that news organization would then take the voucher and get money for it, right? And so what would happen is that these news organizations would still try to appeal to people to get those vouchers to get the money, but in order to exchange that voucher for money with the government, they still have to meet these minimum standards, right? So what you're doing is you're saying the environment is still driven by interest of the audience, but to even have access to that audience, we're saying there's a minimum standard or a minimum kind of like content that you would need to be able to get funding, right? It's easy to nirvana fallacy it and kind of pick it apart, but I think it is a good idea in the sense that like what you're saying though, it does you can further extrapolate and say, okay, well, like, does that mean that we need to now say if it is a purely editorial project that this media thing is it outside of this program? And then now do people say, well, since it's outside that program, that means it's not influenced by the government, which makes it better, right? I think that there are a lot of those questions, and I agree with you in the sense they're like, I said, I put it to them and said, you know, I would be surprised if more than 20% of the American population gave a shit about actual journalism, right? Like cared, like if they learned, if you went to a Republican and said the last 5 years of news reporting that you read, there were no facts inside of it, I really don't think that would affect them very much. And I think for a large amount of Democrats actually, and people on the left, I don't know how much it would really affect them either, in the sense that they're like, they would still go and watch the news. They enjoy doing it. There's a dopamine hit from it. They like doing it. And so, at the end of the day, it's kind of a thing where like, either we need to, in my view, we either need to crack down on editorial content, create some kind of liability for news organizations, or just radically change how we provide news to the public. All of those things are so difficult to do in our current system with the First Amendment. All you can look at is these kind of structural changes where you might say, because if you look at it, we do the same thing in a lot of areas with the federal government, where they say, okay, there's these subsidies, there's this money, and to access it, you have to bring yourself up to this minimum standard, right? And I think that's what we're kind of shooting for here. And then on the other side, to be fair, though, I think that this kind of idea of like public discourse around what is being reported, right? Like the vast majority of news articles basically don't have comment sections anymore. Most news, or at least the ones that I've seen, and then a lot of news channels on YouTube, they turn off their comments and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't know what the value of that stuff is, but I think encouraging some kind of that like commentary on these news reportings would help in some way. I mean, look at how positive the reaction is even today, I feel like, to the community notes thing. Like, I feel like out of everything that's happened in the last few years, that was like one of the weirdest like things to come out of all this, where it's like people really liked community notes. Community notes, I feel like for the most part did a good job. And I was surprised, like that, I saw that and I felt like if that was in every piece of media nowadays, I think people would respond really well to it and people would really like that.
Maybe, I guess. Are the community notes things, do those even show up as much anymore? I feel like you don't really see them that much. Unless somebody's like actually... I don't
go on X except to reply under your stuff, so I don't know.
Like when somebody's totally, completely factually wrong, they'll show up, but I feel like you see them way less often now. And people just use Grok instead, yeah.
That's fair. But, you know, I mean, I think it's kind of a thing where people don't really look at news as a place to discuss things. They look at a place to just like get stuff downloaded into their brain, and pushing to have that kind of like town square feel, right? Making it more like truly like the marketplace of ideas as it was originally meant to be, rather than like online shopping marketplace of ideas where you just go, you find the one you want, you order, and it comes to you. A place where things are going to like, the reason that's called a marketplace of ideas is because those ideas are competing in the marketplace. It's not more for me to go and shop and buy something, right? That's the whole concept of a market. So trying to push that that competitiveness between the ideas back in and for the audience, and making that competitiveness not based on advertisement revenue, right, and instead based on factual reporting, I think is kind of where it's going. So
yeah, I guess it's just hard to figure out because the advertising revenue is tracking what people want to see, right? And if the factual reporting is not the thing rising to the top, then the thing that I take away from that is that that's not what people want to see.
Well, right. So, if that's the case, right? If that's why, to me, there needs to be at least part of it or something here that's saying like we need to tamp down on editorial content. Editorial content might be what people want to see for entertainment, but it is the harmful aspect here, right? If there was some kind of liability for editorial content that such that it's not profitable to put it out, just whatever you want, right? Like right now, there's so little liability that Candace Owens has a 9-part series on whether or not the president of France's wife is trans, and we do not know if she's going to be held liable in a court of law, right? I think we are so far in one extreme that this is probably not what we should be doing, right? Now, I don't think that we should make it where if you tell any possible lie in an editorial, you should just get destroyed and sued. But, something like a public cause of action that would
if there was some way I thought about this as some like creating some entity called like the fucking truth department, and it like sues people when they make egregious misconduct. But obviously you always fall into the worry of like who determines which things count as truthful or not truthful, and then how much power do they have to give those considerations. Like would it go through an ordinary court process? Are we not just like creating a more bureaucratic ways of just essentially suing for defamation? Like when you just do that.
Well, but you could, I would argue that like whether or not like there's these like administrative aspects to it that are rough, I think that you could set something up similar to an NLRB where you have like a panel that is going to like evaluate a claim before you even bring it to a court. And then once you're there, you go through a fact-finding process, right? And you could make it where it's like, okay, you force people into a class, right? If there's an article and you want to sue over the truthfulness of things in that article, and there's multiple people, guess what? You're all going to join in. Or it's kind of a first past the post. You sue, you get to try to get the bounty for it, right? And it kind of goes that, and really, to me, it's just kind of a thing where it's like, you could make it knowingly, right? So did this person do due diligence? Did they make sure that they had everything they needed to make this statement? And even if they're still wrong, that's okay. Or did this person not even try? Did they not care? Did they ignore obvious evidence? Things like that. And I agree with you that it's kind of like, we're making more ways to sue for defamation. But I'm saying, yes, we should make a new way to sue for defamation and lower the standard, because this is a person that's saying, I want to put my opinion out in the public, make money off of that, and I don't care if it's true or not as long as I make the money. And I also don't care about the negative externality that happens to the public, which in any other industry, we care a lot about.
Has to be captured somehow, yeah.
Yeah, we care about externalities that happen in every other area of the market. But for some reason, for the press, we're saying, well, if there's negative externalities, we just are going to all absorb that. And at this point in time where we are, it's such that the externalities are so much bigger than what they've ever been, that it is appropriate, I think, that we start to step in and say, okay, you guys are dumping toxic waste into the river. You need to pay to clean it up, right? Something like that. Or you need to pay such that you don't do it.
Yeah.
But those are the extremes. But yeah, let me see. Did you catch the Pisco and Prime K's ties?
Yeah, talk? I listened to it last night while I was doing my court documents. Yeah. What a horrible conversation.
I was really thinking about it and just how much of a shitlib Pisco is. But ultimately, what I came to was that, like, I think the most frustrating thing for me about listening to pro-Palestinian people like Prime K's talk about this is that it's so harmful because it incentivizes both Republicans and Democrats to go in the wrong direction, right? Because like Democrats, we all know it's like if you do this, Democrats won't listen to you because you don't vote for them, so they're going to go elsewhere. But like, if any smart Republican, like Donald Trump or anybody, well, he's not smart, but if any Republicans looking at this, they're saying, why would I ever want to resolve the Gaza-Palestine situation? The only thing that happens is it hurts my opponents. Like, the ongoing Gaza problem is only a problem, I feel like at least, for Democrats in this country. So like, why would Republicans ever care or like want to resolve this thing? You are actually just encouraging them to make it worse and worse, because no matter what they do, the liberals get blamed for it. So it's just, I know I'm screaming into the void here because it's not like any of those people are going to hear me, but it's just like, I don't know, that's just like a really frustrating moment to listen to. No matter what side of the aisle you're on that one, or like which side.
It's a virtue signal that has nothing to do with anything in reality. Like you can it's just stupid. Like if I come up to you and I say you've got two options, I'm either going to cut off your hand or I'm going to cut off your entire arm. Like you're not going to virtue signal and say, well, I'm not going to choose either. And then it's like, okay, well, if you don't choose either, I'm cutting off your arm. You really don't want to choose between your hand or your arm? You're like, no. Like you would, right? You say, fuck it, I guess. There goes my hand, right? that this is a
Yeah.
virtue signal.
Yeah.
The only way that you can take a position like this, it's a position of extreme privilege where you're trying to social signal more than accomplish or effect any type of positive end. Like that's it, full stop. There is no reasonable, rational way you can have a position that doesn't maximize for harm reduction here when you're counting in lives, right? Pisco asked him if 20,000 Palestinians would have not died if you voted for Kamala, would that have been a good vote? And Prime Kai still says no. That's just a position of extreme privilege, right?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where like I'm not like calling Pisco out or anything on this. It's just like when I look at like major media sources or things like that are like for some reason giving space to this conversation with people like this, like I'm now looking at them like they're being very irresponsible, right? Like
I think
it's fine,
Pisco
like,
pushed back pretty well. But
No,
I mean,
no,
like
I
this
think
is
Pisco did a
everybody.
good job.
This is going to be everybody
I
in
don't-
Pisco's like world, right? All the lefties believe what Prime Kai believes, right? So I mean,
well, yeah, but I think that Pisco's situation, I feel like he pushed back really hard on Prime, and I think that he also gave Prime a lot of space to look kind of like an idiot, at least in my opinion. But I think whenever I'm seeing like news people do it, where I've seen like some of the people that you've debated then go on to news programs, I can't remember any of their names, but they go on there and they just say just like the most insane shit on there, and then the news program itself is just like, wow, we've got some real fierce debate here, and it's like it feels like if someone's like, let's just bring on like Nick Fuentes, let them just spout off about like how white people are dying off, and then look at the other person who's going to like talk to us about like voter reform and be like, this is crazy, everybody. It just whenever I see that kind of platforming of these like very far Palestinian, far left pro-Palestinian people by news media and political organizations, it just feels very irresponsible to me. I don't know. I'm just sewing
I mean,
at
like
you
I
for
kind of
that.
agree with you, but I mean, like that was my whole argument with Pisco, right? Yeah, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, hey, everybody go read the Pragmatic Papers. We really appreciate all the support, by the way. Everybody's been like super nice and helping us catch bugs and everything like that, and just reaching out to the writers and stuff. We've got multiple guest writers this week. I forgot to mention that before. I believe we have 2 different guest writers this week. So if you guys feel like you have anything worth talking about, worth writing about and submitting it, shoot it to us. We'd love to read it, and if it's good enough, we'll put it out for you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Have fun. Be careful.
All right. Bye.
I saw somebody link the actual the Scott post. This is my #1 pet peeve. Where is this guy? Wait, fuck. Oh, I just realized this is Peter, the TGO guy. Wait. There's no way I'm the first person to make this argument, so I'm sure other people have made the argument. My motivation is good epistemic practices. My grievance... Okay, so he knows the phrase epistemic practice. Okay. My grievance is that Destiny mimics the aesthetic of good epistemic practices while he is engaging in bad epistemic practices. I feel like I am probably the hungriest person of my size in this space, okay, that tries to do like actual research, tries to like audit my thoughts, my community, and everything else. Why, when people say shit like this, I wish they could fucking give an example. Like, what's an example of me engaging in some flawed epistemic practice? Like, can you name some? Maybe he does later on. I wonder myself, have you known that he is primarily a politics streamer? Are you surprised that negative points about him touch on the topic of politics? My politics are 90% identical to his, even though 100%. I still believe that politics should be informed by reasoning, and I don't believe he's handling it that way. Sycophancy is bad. I haven't thought of searching his Reddit for a specific SSC title. And the other question, what does reading ACX mean to you? What do you expect from someone who reads ACX in contrast to someone who doesn't? They're really big on if you read Astral, the Scott Alexander's blog, is it? Let's take the Chinese robbers article for an example. Imagine giving someone that article to read, and they respond with, thanks, very insightful, Scott really got me at the end there. It's really easy to fall for these biases. That would be ideal, no? Now imagine them instead saying, thanks, very insightful, my opponent falls for these biases all the time. Me, I'm objective and impartial. Not that good, right? Is he saying I did the latter? Like, I feel like this guy's using a heuristic in place of like an actual factual collection of information, and then ironically wearing the good epistemic practices as an aesthetic while accusing me of wearing good epistemic practices as an aesthetic. Arguably, it may not even matter, since even if Destiny uses epistemic practices in bad faith, his audience isn't a monolith, and if even one of his watchers gets exposed to ACX in good faith, you can consider it a net positive. I grant that. I just wanted to state my strong belief that destiny is bad faith. Imagine the above scenario, and the person you were talking to says the first thing but thinks the second. It would be really difficult and time-consuming to figure it out. You can't point to simple hypocrisy since we're all susceptible to that. I bet you, me, Scott, all have engaged in this fallacy even after the article came out. If a person was sufficiently clever, they would be able to correctly accuse others of the Chinese rubber fallacy, while it would take a huge amount of data points of this person complaining about Taiwanese burglars, Japanese pickpockets, and Korean con artists to get even a reasonable level of suspicion that they don't actually care about avoiding fallacies. Is there like an example of this? Of me doing this? Like of not being aware of this? I'm not certain you're aware of how strong confirmation bias can be. I don't deny that Destiny engages in the intellectual behavior you cited. It was a huge reason for me to follow in the first place, but it's not a random sample. He knew what the outcome of your debate was. Him researching and questioning was never going to change the conclusion of the debate, which agreed with his preconceived notions that conspiracy theories are all populist brain rot bullshit. He knew what the outcome of your debate was. Wait, that's not true. I was slightly partial to the lab leak theory going into that. Didn't I say that? I thought it was like 60-40 that it leaked from a lab. One of the reasons why I was so upset going through even Peter's intro to the debate is I came out of that like 98-2 that it was almost for sure zoonotic spillover without some very strong behind-the-scenes conspiracy that no... Actually, it's funny he says this. The only reason why I even reviewed this debate, was because Chris from the Decoding the Gurus guy pushed me to it, because he was like, hey, you keep saying something about lab leak, you should really look at this. And then he linked me this shit. I'm like, bro, this debate is like fucking... or not, maybe not Chris. Fuck, what was his name? He was like, you should really watch this. I'm like, bro, this is like a 30-hour fucking debate. There's no world where I'm watching this. And he was like, you keep saying this stuff about lab leak, you should really check. And I was like, okay, fine, fuck it. And then I checked it out. And then my opinion changed pretty significantly, which I think is good, which shows positive, like, new information. Update your beliefs accordingly. Him researching and questioning was never going to change the conclusion of the debate, which agreed with his preconceived notions that conspiracy theories are all populist brain rot bullshit. I recall from the lab leak article that you went into the research with a neutral stance, and if that's true, I wonder if you've entertained the counterfactual in which you came to the opposite conclusion. Would you have been invited by Joe Rogan, Breaking Point's other anti-establishment populists? Would you have accepted? And if so, would you still have come away with positive impressions of them? Would Destiny still have treated your debate with the same honesty? Well, this guy doesn't even have all the data. Oh God, it's so fucking annoying. I can only point to hints of evidence that Destiny's intellectual curiosity and honesty is very selective, and that he mostly operates off of confirmation bias and related fallacies. On election night, like, okay, what are the examples? Like this guy's like, how do I describe this? This is like me when I was like 17, or it's like Asmongold now, where you have people that are intelligent, like high IQ, but they're too lazy or they won't do any research. They won't actually go out and collect information, so they rely on heuristics, which for the most part in their life probably serve them pretty well, but when they fail miserably. Like what? I feel like I read so many... Dude, we're looking at fucking... trying to learn how to read these fucking blot tests or whatever on the... I don't even... Jesus Christ. To satisfy my confirmation bias? On election night, he spent at least $25K betting on Kamala. Because... if you bet on something, you're betting because you think that your intuition is better than the odds that are currently being offered, or your feeling that an event will happen is better than the odds that are currently being offered on a particular thing. Does this guy even know how betting works? I don't think he even understands how betting works. For instance, if somebody were to tell me right now, will you bet that Hillary Clinton runs and wins in 2028? My question wouldn't be, no, I'd never bet on that. My question would be, what are the odds? And if you tell me 1-to-1, no, of course not. If you tell me 1,000,000-to-1, I mean, I have to bet some amount. 1,000,000-to-1? How often is something 1,000,000-to-1 shot? Like, I almost have to bet on that. Like, the chances that enough people would die to make that bet worth are probably high enough that you'd have to, at least on like $10, right? Why wouldn't I put $10 down on the 0.01% chance that I win $10 million if I'm right? But me betting on that doesn't mean that I think that it's likely to occur. And goaded a gullible friend into betting $700K. XQC asked me, and I said I was slightly favoring Kamala, but I wasn't sure. Didn't I say, I think I was like 60-40? Is that what I said to him? Does this guy think that betting means you have a 100% certainty of an outcome? The money was gone, and in the weeks and months after, the narratives shifted to the loss being obvious from the start. Whose narrative? What? Oh, true. I bet with Andrew Wilson because Andrew Wilson was laying me odds on Kamala winning. Was he giving me odds or was it 1-1? I thought, I accepted that bet, but I bet that Trump would win against Andrew. I won that bet. I don't remember if he was giving me odds or not. He was giving me odds. Okay, yeah. So I bet favoring Trump there. He still hasn't paid you? Didn't he pay me? I don't remember. Yeah, but I bet that Trump would win against Andrew Wilson. Because I think he was giving me, the odds were too good not to. In a 2024 debate on Israel-Palestine, his opponent falsely accused Israel of blocking cookies into Gaza. Oh my God, he has the clips. This guy has just seen clips of me, and he's going on the talking points. Destiny justified it by saying that you can extract sugar from cookies and convert the sugar into rocket fuel. When it turned out after the debate that neither cookies nor pure sugar were blocked from Gaza, his introspection amounted to the other side being wrong too. First of all, my feelings on this were, one, literally reinforced by watching people make, like, there are literally videos of people making these rockets from like distilled or purified sugar or whatever. So it seemed like it was a possible thing to do. And then I was trying to think of a reason for why they would maybe ban it, because I couldn't see any evidence that like they were just banning cookies that are evil. And then it came out that there was no actual specific ban list. It was like a white list of things that came in, and I was like, okay. When it turned out that after the debate that neither cookies nor pure sugar were blocked from Gaza, his introspection amounted to the other side being wrong too, because the other side's point was that there was just arbitrary, that they were banning Oreos because they wanted to watch children suffer. I would say that if you honestly believe that sugar is banned because it can be turned into weapons and you find out that there is no ban, it would follow that you should advocate for a ban or figure out where you went wrong. You find out there is no... That is an argument that you could make, but I don't even know if I'm pretty sure they just use other material now, because the weapons that the rockets they were making in 2005, 2006 were very crude. I don't even know if they were doing, maybe they weren't doing even the sugar rockets or whatever back then. Or they weren't using sugar. They might have been using like fertilizer or something different. But also, I don't think you should ban all... Okay. My model of destiny is him being a very skilled Texas sharpshooter variant. Everybody that won't do any research always does this. They say that I cherry pick arguments. They say that I'm just a fast talker, but they never actually point, like, give me something of substance so we can go back and forth on it. Like, all my notes are published. Like, everything is public. Like, I have all my research. I do all of this on stream. It's so crazy that somebody can come out with a heuristic in like 12 seconds. They're like, oh, well, I saw this clip, so I know this is, like, Jesus, like, do some homework if you're gonna have a strong opinion on it. He can impress you with his knowledge about firearms, the physics of bullet holes, and he can draw a really convincing target, but he will avoid shooting live in front of other people where possible and look like a novice when he's forced to. This isn't even a good analogy, because somebody can have a high knowledge of firearms and just not go shooting. And it's a bad analogy because I do shoot. Most of the negative I've heard about is people complaining about his sex life, not his politics. The streamer industry is a drama farming cesspool. It'd be expected you won't find much criticism of substance here. Never such time criticism because they're and he rules his own community with a stochastic iron fist. Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, he's had multiple years of opportunities to delete the material off of Discord. He already knew that the leaks happened in December when he was conducting interviews with DNC chair candidates, presenting as a politics expert without even doing the bare minimum to clean up possible blackmail material. All of them, it all happened at once. It was just one event. It's not like this has happened like multiple times. This is all just like one event that happened. Jesus Christ. Who is this? Just a commenter on Scott's blog. I'm sorry, sycophancy is a strong word that I chose, and I'm sure he wouldn't use it, but it's not an allegation. In 2025, he's been openly advocating to remove everyone who is not friendly with the DNC with no proper definition of what it means or what its effects should be. Clearly, this is my argument. Yeah, true. Clearly, influencers who aren't friendly with the DNC don't rely on its endorsement. Setting up rules for what constitutes acceptable criticism of the party is a ridiculous notion. How is it a ridiculous notion to identify in an in-group and an out-group when your in-group is trying to win elections? What? Destiny, I distinctly remember you analyzing a video that alleged that Trump wasn't actually harmed by a bullet at all, but that a Secret Service guy kicked him. You entered kind of believing it, but it turned out to be bullshit. Wait, did it turn out to be bullshit? Because that's the one conspiracy theory I want to believe in, and I will believe that theory. Nothing you say will change my mind, otherwise, fuck you. It treats politics as team sports instead of a tangle of overlapping and conflicting goals. Well, at the end of the day, politics is a win-lose thing. This is like really toxic. Like, people say team sports, and it shouldn't be team sports, but it kind of is. And they use this team sports thing as, like, imagine if you had a competition and one side was playing for fun and the other side was playing to win. You're probably always going to lose to the side playing to win. Now, if we're like in grade school or high school or whatever, that's fine. But if we're at the NCAA level, or if we're like in the pros, I mean, winning is kind of important, right? Imagine if in Space Jam, imagine if Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes were just playing for fun, right? They'd all be in hell with their souls eternally locked in by the evil business guy. In practice, it provides an excuse for a supposedly liberal community with right-wing authoritarians occupying all branches of the government to dedicate a disproportionate amount of time and energy into signal boosting the missteps of lefties. Destiny had kick-started Hassan Piker's career back in the day, and now is a personal rivalry with him. Well, because when Hassan was in my community back in the day, Hassan pretended to be a sock dem. That's how he presented himself. I didn't know he was a full-on fucking radical tanky. I find Hassan intolerable and agree that he should have been banned from Twitch, but his community firmly believes now that pro-Palestine activists were responsible for the 2024 result. Bro, they themselves say that. They literally say that. We just listen to Prime Kai and other people argue this. Dustin recently stated that all left-wing communities except his and Ethan Klein's are filled with Jew haters. A lot of them are. Almost all of them are now. Wait, what? And I have seen some worrying trends on the subreddits that amount to historical revisionism, i.e. the role of communists in Weimar Germany. Oh, okay. So this guy is like a lefty, you think, or... That would explain where some of his talking points have come from. Or just a pro-Pally guy who got lost in that hole. Classic sycophancy was an open display in the latter half of 2024. It was effectively impossible to know Destiny's stance on anything, since he argued right-wing points at right-wingers to convince them that Biden had their policies. He defended the DNC nominating Harris without a primary as being a private organization with no obligations to conduct elections, which clashes with his position that the American two-party system is fine due to the primary system. It's not a clash. It was an exceptional set of circumstances. I'm pretty sure I said this in every single debate I had, whether they kept Biden or went with Kamala. Like, it's a really tough call. It was an exceptional set of elections where you have where you have to dump your I don't know why I'm arguing against this thread, but oh fuck. And he posited the Democrats shouldn't do any introspection because Republicans didn't do so either. Here's a criticism by someone who's better at all of it than me. Oh, the laundry guy. We've seen him on Twitter. I don't know if he hates me or likes me. I'm not sure. His support for abundance amounts to being a tool against populists while making arguments against the spirit of abundance. You generally can. The problem is you don't want the basics. You want a premium middle-class lifestyle, a house or a roomy apartment with no roommates, high-quality food / extras like Starbucks, a decent vehicle, budget for some entertainment, and the ability to save up a decent amount of extra income every month, all from a 40-hour fast food job. This will probably never be realistic. These jobs are transitional. They're not meant to be the final destination for most workers. How is this an argument against the spirit of abundance? Does abundance argue that minimum wage 40-hour workers can afford everything that a middle-class lifestyle would support? What? Even in the stream VOD you posted, he has to pause as he gets upset at the author being a former Tesla engineer, Tesla being a company led by the enemy. When you're getting a Voldemort face filter? Seriously. Where his sycophancy for the DNC doesn't apply, he's a sycophant for the US and for the institutions, but this plays into his Texas sharpshooter qualities. I don't know if you care for me to cite examples here. Otherwise, I'd be interested to see if you have any informed opinions that could touch on pro/anti-DNC establishment or US positions, and I could try to recall and find examples if you ever argued about those topics. Jesus Christ. I wonder if Peter knew my position going into the lab leak thing. This doesn't sound correct. Oh, Peter does know about this. Oh, see this interview with the Decoding the Gurus guys?
I think there were two big papers that were published initially, maybe both in Nature, that like looked at this, like I think months within the origin of the virus. I wasn't aware like any other huge papers that had come out. When I say 60-40, I might actually be hedging too much. A lot of it comes from the fact that I think either one or some of our intelligence agencies switched their position on it, and I'm like, okay, well maybe there's something that I don't have access to, maybe. Yeah.
But this is a perfect illustration because there are two papers that like a lot of people reference. One is the proximal origins one, and then the other one tends to be.
I'm uniquely suited to do. One of these is I think actually I was telling you, this is a practice thing. I try to hedge an appropriate level of conviction around things that I talk about.
Okay, so he knows that I was 60-40 for a lab leak, I think, right? This sounds like someone expressing a cautious amount of uncertainty on a complex topic, not someone who thinks all conspiracy theories are brain rot. Wow, thanks. Whoops. For what it's worth, he does seem to be some kind of a degenerate gambler. I watched him buy 500K on years based on no due diligence. Oh. Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm honest about this, right? My stock buys are all memes. Like, I say as much. I'm not giving actual stock tips here. "60-40 is the default number you cite when you want to appear reasonably sure in a benign setting. In hostile debates, he uses phrases like, I'm 1,000,000,000% sure. Well, I wouldn't be having a hostile debate about the lab leak hypothesis. In a hostile debate, it's probably a subject that I've done a lot more research on. Holy shit. I don't see either as points for or against dishonesty or as really, oh my God, okay. Sorry, thinking about it some more. Remember I said this before? I said this when it comes to Gistical, when it comes to interpersonal relationships, when it comes to Kiwi Farm, when it comes to all these other people, the only time I ever seem like nefarious or evil or like this enigmatic force that it's impossible to figure out it's just you don't believe anything I say. And you have to assume that I'm lying about like everything at all points in time. There's some complicated theory. Also, no evidence is ever leaked ever showing any of this. So these are all like theories that people have, right? So this statement, sorry, thinking about it some more, him stating that his odds are hedged seems intentionally deceptive. What? For why? Why would I? Why? Might be. I don't understand the formalities of odds, but hedged odds would just be a range of odds. While stating your odds with a caveat that you're hedging seems to mean that your actual odds are different from the stated ones. And for a politics person, wouldn't you expect a much more honest signal for 40% lab leak odds? It was 60% lab leak odds. He doesn't even know which side I was on. I think, right? I think it was 60% I was to genuinely discuss potential political consequences for the originators. I don't know every single theory. I don't have the time to read about every single conspiracy. At 6:35, he talks to XQC, encouraging him to bet more. This is the clip of him talking about XQC betting 700K on Kamala. Saying... Okay, I'm calling him.
Did you see XQC put 700K on it?
Dude, yeah, he asked me yesterday. He's like, who do you think's going to win? I'm like, pretty sure it's Kamala. Do you really feel it? I was like, yeah, I think so. And then he sent me a picture of the bet.
That's so funny. Should make him pay you a bit. If you
well, I'm not taking him, so. I think I gave him... didn't I post our DMs? This is the clip. This is the 18 second... I think I said... Did I say 65% when I talked to XQC? I felt like it was 65%, but I don't know if I'd bet on it. Fuck. I think I posted the DMs, but I don't have the... All my logs from before January 1st are gone. Destiny, the problem is that he's doing what he's accusing you of, working back from his predetermined conclusion. Yeah, I know, but it's so fucking frustrating because now they've adopted the language that I've used of these people have the aesthetic of rationality. And now he's saying, well, Destiny has the aesthetic of rationality when he says others have the aesthetic of rationality. But I think this guy's adopted the aesthetic of rationality when he's accusing me of having the aesthetic of rationality when I accuse him of having the aesthetic of rationality. So it's just like fucking, it's so stupid. Destiny, you should just safely and securely pass over any and all rationalists. There is no no thought there. I mean, I think some of them are okay. I had fun at the event that I went to. I mean, I imagine it's like every community. We have good people and bad people. I feel like the Scott guy seems pretty smart. I enjoy like most of the articles that I've read. My issue isn't with bad bets themselves, it's how he deals with them after. I think he has a responsibility to himself and to his audience, potentially with his friend, to reflect on how they could be so bullish for what turned out to be 50% odds. How can you say something turned out to be 50% odds? And wait, so does he think that I told XQC that it was 100% Kamala would win? Wait, does anybody have these screenshots that I posted? I swear to God I showed these on stream. Okay, I watched some of the election clip. Destiny makes a bunch of sarcastic jokes about Alan Lichtman and stuff like that. Or I hope he's mocking Lichtman, that guy's a tool. Then at one point he says, he tries to say he's being very serious, that he hasn't looked closely, just about history and doesn't know. Then he tries to give a guess that is still close to 50-50, not 3-1 for Trump. Given the time at which he's saying this, I think it's not such a bad take. I was live betting the whole thing and watching state by state. It was still very close to 50 for a while before the blue wall states came in. Oh, Peter's a treasure. I love this guy. The oldest mentions from 2021.
Like an actual malignant lab leak. You probably don't think the vaccines are effective. You probably don't trust Biden. You probably vote for Trump. And it's because like when you buy.
Oh, this is where I'm talking about citing lab leak for his tactic of listing a set of his opponent's opinions. All I'm arguing is that people this is the constellation of beliefs idea. The idea that it feels like people have, if they believe in one thing, you can predict and generate so much of their other beliefs.
With the COVID lab leak hypothesis for the longest time, and I think I was even careful on the COVID time. I was like, there's no evidence right now that it came from a lab. There's been 2 big studies, both published in Nature, that made it look like it came from a wet mark. I don't think there was any good evidence that it came from a lab. And everyone's like, no. Like, okay, there's no good evidence for it. And then later on, I don't remember if it was another big study that was posted.
No, it wasn't.
It might have been a write-up relating to Intel. I don't remember. But something came out, I was like, oh, this makes it look like it might have come from a lab. I don't know if it shifted the consensus opinion on that it might have come from a lab. But I was like, oh, it might have actually. And now people are like, oh, see, I was right the whole time. I told you. Now you can't take the L. I was like, no, I don't know how to, yeah.
How is this cited as... In most clips like these, he's consistent with his uncertainty about the theory, so I need to admit that. Okay. The strange thing here is that these are basically the only mentions of lab leak in connection to bioweapons that I can find. There appears to be no debate where he was actually confronted with this conspiracy theory. I don't doubt that these conspiracy theories are popular, but I can't even find a transcript of him reading them out loud. Okay. Jesus. Why is he upset on XQC's behalf? No, he's just... Sure, you can use that as a mot. The Bailey is that Destiny is a rivalry with Hassan, and there needs to be a reason to focus on leftists when the community is currently occupied by far-right authoritarians. Does he think we don't talk about Trump here? Also, it doesn't help when Hassan is literally... What did he call me yesterday? There were 3 words in a row. Sex, pestiny, molestiny, and rapestiny? Or what was the third? What was the third one? Molestestiny? Epstiny, molestiny, sex, pestiny. Jesus Christ. He's making his own Ripperino, cappuccino, pappuccino. It's never concretely stated what removing associations with online left influence is supposed to do. Freeze up a day. It also kind of betrays a lack of introspection. The prior for people kickstarting the careers of toxic lefties is named Destiny. He boosted Hassan, Vosh, Pisco, if his recent rivalry is to be believed. Yeah, Hassan was way more mask on, though. Vosh was a fun person to debate as well. Yeah, but these people... I think that the online leftist shit it also got way more toxic. It wasn't as crazy. He boosted Nick Fuentes. So anybody that I had a debate with counts as boosting. So all my adversarial debates get counted as well. He boosted Nick Fuentes, Lauren Southern, and is still friends with outspoken anti-Semite Myron Gaines. One thing, this is a very, very weird like social signaling thing, but people that use anti-Semite as insults or anti-Semites as descriptors like this around certain people are usually insanely pro-Pally people. And they do the anti-Semitic thing to signal against them being anti-Semitic. You'll hear Hassan Piker do this a lot, where he'll say things like, Ethan Klein accuses me of being anti-Semitic, but he has made anti-Semitic jokes. Or people will say, oh, Destiny's made anti-Semitic jokes, against Dan or whatever. And it's like, you really think this is anywhere remotely the same as you guys talking about how, like, the entire country of Israel needs to be upended and shouldn't exist? Like this? It's funny. It's like a weird virtue signal. This guy's made other posts that makes me think he's a big pro-Pally guy too. So. Destiny does not seem to actually believe in abundance. Is this going to be the same tweet? Does he think abundance just means that there's an abundance of stuff for everybody? Admittedly, I haven't read the book, but I've listened to Eric and Derek and Ezra describe it, and it sounds like the takeaway or the idea behind quote unquote abundance is just that rather than approaching all of society as this scarcity mindset where we're running out of stuff, we have to fight over limited resources and everything is a zero-sum game with immigrants and everybody else, we should be treating things as though we have a ton of opportunities and the ability to build on stuff and do a lot of brave and fun and adventurous projects, and that we do have the resources for this, and we should treat it more like an abundance mindset where we should like tackle big problems rather than like hiding into a box. Not that abundance means that everybody has infinite resources. Okay. Why? Okay, I need to start reading this. Oh, he is a lefty. In my experience, the practical application of moderating positions has been to just not have any strong demands of the party, because the Republicans are worse, and to vote blue no matter who. This seems to fulfill the sycophancy criteria. It's mostly a result of Destiny's willingness to debate anyone. There's a common talking point among his fans that supposedly represents this as a virtue, but there is a pattern of him becoming obsessed about a topic or argument and never even attempting to seek out the strongest counter-argument to it, and this pattern has been repeating for years. What? I literally debated Norman Finkelstein, who's probably, unfortunately, one of the most cited Western scholars in huge quotes, for the Israel-Palestine stuff. What other... I would debate Robert Malone or any of these fuckers. I've tweeted at the Weinstein fuckers for any of the vaccine or... Like, I debated Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. Like, what... I understand those guys aren't, like, the scholars, but it's even shown in the stream VOD link to Bud above. I was looking for the part where he reads the ACX article and clicked into a segment where he, again, pretended that all criticism of the U.S. healthcare system amounts to a belief in infinite resources. I feel like I've said this a million times. You can criticize systems. I've criticized parts of the U.S. healthcare system. I've made jokes about my own experience going to buy Vyvanse and they give you a phone and they're like, pick a coupon. And I'm like, how the fuck does any of this shit even work? None of this even makes sense. There are definitely things you can improve, but people pretend that you can have everything. And that's just the thing. If I don't grant every single thing on your side, that means that I'm saying everything is beyond reproach. There's no criticisms to be had at all. Like what? Why am I? Okay. This is the last comment of his. I'll read. I'll stop. Okay. I think he has a high standard for showing proof of conspiracies, not that they don't exist. He uses the aesthetics of a high standard for showing proof, but for all purposes, conspiracies do not exist in his reality. He denies basic human psychology on the exchange of favors. He denies that a newspaper buyout influences the editorial direction. He believes that corruption does not make sense as a concept. For him, 12% of Senate races were lost by the candidate with more campaign spending, proving that money can't buy political power. This in mind, what chance could anyone ever have in proving an actual competently executed conspiracy to him? In Destiny's Bayesian model, priors are only proof for the priors. Naturally, caveats apply. He is less hostile to conspiracy theories that incriminate his chosen political opponents. Oh my god. Listen, if this guy ever sees this video, if you ever email me, want to come on and chat. Oh, that's true, actually. I ripped a lot of my argument, or a big influential thing about money not buying political power actually came from this, from Scott's article here about, I didn't realize how little money was spent in the political system in the United States. That's not the main point of that article, and it's unusually short. Equating Scott's and Destiny's argument on the topic of inappropriate. This guy is a Scott worshiper. This guy, holy shit. Destiny requires evidence that cannot be provided by any common framework for most of reality. You can ask me on any topic, and I'll tell you, well, here's the thing, like, this is evidence that would change my mind. I even state this as a prerequisite to having an informed opinion on something. You should know what it would take to change your mind on something. Which conspiracy theories do you think he accepts because they don't meet his standard but are against his opponents? Everything to do with Russian influence suggests mechanisms similar to ones that could be used by domestic actors. Somehow, $10 million for tenant media are a big deal, but $50 million for PragerU doesn't do anything. What? Wait, I don't understand. PragerU is a conservative media outlet. I think they say as much, don't they? Any money they get is going to be for conservative shit. Tim Pool represents himself as an independent, and then he gets $10 million from $5 million is what he got from Russia. These are significantly different in comparison. He was also entertaining the theory that Lex Friedman is employed by Russian intelligence, mirroring conspiracy theories he opposes violently. I mean, I've memed about it. It's kind of funny where he's from and everything, but those aren't things that I entertain seriously. I don't use this as part of like a serious refutation of anything that Lex says. I'm confused. Am I still on Astral Star Codex or Astral Codex 10? Sorry. The blog that repeatedly argues that rational persons don't exist. The blog that deals in concepts such as counterfactual muggings and game theory. The blog. Oh my God, he's so mad. What conspiracy theory would be believed by a rational person? I don't know. Nobody can know. I've literally listed out. We did this yesterday when I was arguing. Like, conspiracy theories can be believable, but you have to deal with some of the difficult hurdles of what would prevent a conspiracy theory from being found out publicly. So like with the Trump's health thing, if you were to tell me, if you were to just tell me like, oh, I think the president could die and it would be kept a secret, my immediate gut reaction is impossible. There would be so many people that would have to buy into that lie. You would need all of the doctors and people around him, anybody in his immediate family, anybody that's near him. All of these people would have to buy into this lie. You would have to demonstrate somehow that it's reasonable to believe that. But with Trump, I think we've overcome a lot of those hurdles, right? We clearly see that there are medical problems that are being lied about. They're not talking about why he has an IV in his hand. We didn't get that or the chronic venous insufficiency or whatever until people spotted his ankle. So we know that there are medical officials that are willing to cover up for him. His health report, they clearly lied about his weight, right? We know that people around him are covering for him. We know that he won't transfer power even when he goes to the hospital. It happened over COVID, right? So ordinarily, this is a conspiracy that I would dismiss generally. I wouldn't dismiss it, but I'd say there's a very, very low chance of happening. But I would say that because you'd have to demonstrate how you can overcome all these other hurdles that would make this conspiracy known. But I think with Trump, I think you have. I think that's the problem with a lot of the Trump's admin right now. Any rational person would have choked themselves to death in the womb because living is irrational. They certainly wouldn't enter politics. Okay, good one. As far as I know, Destiny's issue with tenant media is that it shows a deliberate outside effort to manipulate the U.S. public. He has no issue with pro-Ukrainian efforts. I mean, if they were making top secret donations, yes, I would. The issue here is the covertness of it all. No, the issue is that they lied and they funneled money to a media entity in the United States while covering it up. If I found out that Ukraine was doing that, of course I'd have a huge issue with it, especially with all the accusations that Republicans make about them abusing our money that we send them, right? Jesus. Like, this is such a shallow critique. It's like he has no understanding of what any of the issues even are. His criticism of Israeli efforts is that they're bad at it. Does this guy not understand, like, the FARA violation angle of this, or the fact that they are... okay. He never critically investigated Israel's polling in the US. He just throws up his arms and yells, for some reason boomers really love Israel. Netanyahu's media tour in the 80s seemed like an effort that happened to be successful. Despite how similar domestic... We started supporting them in the 70s, though, but okay. Despite how similar Netanyahu's media tour in the 80s. Netanyahu was first prime minister in 96? I don't even know anything about Netanyahu. I know that Netanyahu worked... Wait, what is he referring to here? I'm not even aware. Early career. One of him is deputy chief of mission at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. While Aarons was ambassador at the U.S., a position he held from 82 until 84. During the 82 Lebanon War, he was called up for reserve duty. Let's see. And served as spokesperson for Israel in the wake of the harsh international criticism of the war. He presented Israel's case for the media during the war and established a highly efficient public relations system in the Israeli embassy. Between 84 and 88, he served as the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. Netanyahu was influenced by Rabbi Menachem M. Schneerson, holy fucking racist name, with whom he formed a relationship during the 80s. This time, Netanyahu became friends with Fred Trump, the father of future U.S. President Donald Trump. This is why Israel is so liked in the United States. Was this... Okay. New talking point unlocked. I didn't refute the reasons for his partisanship. I also can't agree with these reasons. I would argue it's much more manipulative for a family member to tell you to drink poison than for a stranger. We already assume that strangers will give our kids poison. The Tenet situation could be considered egregious because it's a stranger paying a family member to convince you to drink poison. Even so, framing it as citizens arguing when we're talking about domestic corporations potentially employing bot farms seems off. But it's also showing your rigidity of your and Destiny's thinking. Think of the following scenarios. Tenet Media is funded by a Russian-American billionaire. All other facts stay the same, but there is no legal obligation to register as a foreign agent. Is this acceptable? It's legally acceptable, yeah. My criticisms then would be on the actual messaging, as my criticism on Tim Pool is the actual messaging. I think the things he said were really fucking stupid. I don't dismiss everything just because of some bad initial start or whatever, which is something people love to do as well. Is they'll say, oh, well, because you're bought by Israel or whatever, now I don't have to deal with any of your arguments. I think Tim's arguments are dog shit, and I think that the Russian intrusion was really bad, and it's a pattern of behavior that Russia does. But I would, if it was all funded by like a local Russian thing, and the funding was like, reported, or it was local, it doesn't have to be reported that way, then I'm fine, it's legally acceptable. But then I would just, I would attack Tim Pool for the shitty arguments, and I'd probably point out still that you're being funded by some, guy with Russian interests in the United States. But I would point out the thing with Tim Pool is the fact that his argument changed so significantly, because you can see those Reddit posts from 2014, and the fact that he has dog shit arguments. The illegality aspect would be wrong, but I would still be criticizing him on those two grounds. Russia offers Coke Inc. cheap natural gas at a discount amounting to $11 million. There is no stipulation or agreement. The next month, PragerU has received $10 million more than usual from Coke, and its content becomes more friendly to Russia. Is this acceptable? Maybe you could start to look into this a bit, I guess. I don't know. Chasing money can get complicated, but Russia offers Tenet and the affected persons Russian citizenship. They declare them part of the American minority. This benefit amounts to $10 million. Is this acceptable? My main criticisms of Tenet, one was that it was illegal, and then two, I just criticized the fuck out of Tim. This guy, I don't know how to, is it the genetic fallacy? Well, genetic fallacy, I think, is that if some core part of an argument is incorrect, that the argument necessarily is incorrect. People are really obsessed with arguing from people's motivations. I find that to be very boring. I think that it can be worth looking into a little bit, but if the arguments are bad, just contend with the arguments. Like, I'll gladly deal with any of Tim Pool's arguments. I don't obsessively worship and spend all my time talking about, like, people will do this with me. Like, they never address any of my arguments. They just call me a rapist or claim that I'm funded by Israel or claim that I'm politically biased. So anything to avoid actually dealing with the arguments themselves. But, okay. Russia attacks Ukraine. The American youth is addicted to a Russian-made social media app. Russia threatens the U.S. so they retaliate. Is this acceptable? If you only start worrying about foreign influence when you see a comically large check signed Russia, you're not seriously worrying or even thinking about it. Come on, we're on ACX, a blog that posits you can interact with entities whose existence is unprovable. Destiny's insistence that only written and signed documents are legitimate proof for corrupt transactions. When have I ever said that? Okay, I haven't said that. As for Alex, I recall a moment on stream that must have been triggered by this Reddit post. To be fair, this was triggered by me even talking about this was triggered by somebody else pointing out to me, I think that Lex was born in Russia and his name was Alexei or whatever. But again, I don't even treat this seriously as a criticism for his points. Jesus Christ. Okay. Where were we? My God. I do think you underestimate Russian influence / foreign, sometimes destiny. It's the one thing I would agree with him on. His thing had nothing to do with underestimating Russian influence. I think it was just criticizing me in general. I don't think I underestimate Russian or foreign influence. I think it's a big deal. There's just nobody to talk about it with because both sides are brain broken on it. Lefties won't talk about it because they assume that you're just worshiping the U.S. State Department. That's what Assam says all the time. And people on the right won't talk about it because anything having to do with Russia is like mind melting to them. It's like climate change. Like I think climate change is a big issue, but who do we even talk about it with, right?
The Trump administration is facing extreme backlash from multiple of our allied countries after they essentially stabbed South Koreans in the back. Donald Trump has cut deals with South Korean leaders over the...
Is he actually getting any backlash though? Like are Koreans about to stop?
Past few months that were supposed to spur investment into the United States. After South Korea conceded and said, listen, we'll help you, we'll make up numbers for you if you want, Donald Trump pays them back by targeting South Korean workers, hundreds of them, at a Hyundai.
You have a very silly, reductive view of the right's opinion on Russia. Nope, my view is 1 billion trillion % accurate. The right is actually brain broken on Russia, and the right cannot even for a microsecond admit that Russia had a massive interest in the 2016 election. They will do everything they can to run from that, or in the 2020 election as well. The 2016 one was a big one. Wait, my brain is fucked. Yeah, no, the 2016 one, yeah. I'll argue with any person on the right about this. They are completely and totally and utterly brain broken. Oh, they became brain broken even more in 2020 because the Mueller investigation and everything else like fucked them so hard. The right will literally hang their hat on a single fucking quote from a person, right? Like Biden saying, "Oh yeah, like I bullied them to get rid of Shogun or whatever, or Shokan or whatever," and like, "Oh look, that's evidence that him and Hunter Biden were illegally blah blah blah." Meanwhile, Donald Trump on TV, "Hey, by the way, Russia, you'll be rewarded handsomely if you continue hacking into my political opponent," and they'll be like, "Well, he's just joking and memeing when he says that, LOL, bro." I'm sorry, the right is brain broken on Russia. Watching Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson talk about people influencing foreign influence on U.S. politics, and neither of them bringing up Russia in that that was crazy. That was insane.
LG battery megasite in Georgia, rounding them up, putting them in chains and in militarized vehicles, hauling them off and using them as leverage to negotiate even further with South Korea. Sorry, that was all a mouthful, but I'm going to walk you through this entire story from start to finish because Trump is facing not only extreme backlash from South Korean leaders, but reporters in South Korea are going scorched earth on the United States. There's almost a coordinated, unified push from reporters and citizens in our allied country of South Korea to just shit on the Trump admin, to take down the Trump admin for this massive betrayal. And the relationship between the United States and South Korea is supposed to be a powerful story. It's a story from hardship to prosperity. Now, the South Korean people fought a lot for freedom, and the United States played a central role in stabilizing and helping support that mission. And now we are just betraying them. So let's just start with the facts. Nearly 500 workers were taken in a raid at Hyundai's battery plant. In this quiet Georgia town, the silence is deafening. And before I even play the videos, I just want you to picture this. Officers, masked and carrying rifles, fanned across the site. They ordered construction workers to line up, demanded dates of birth and SSN numbers, and began sorting who would be cleared to leave and who would be loaded onto buses. People were shackled up, but these were not just random day laborers pulled off the street. Not that that would be okay, but the people in this scenario were highly skilled technicians sent from South Korea intentionally because American contractors didn't have the right skills to build these billion-dollar factories on a tight deadline. So it would never be okay to treat anybody like this, but I just find it even more despicable that Donald Trump tries to get investment from South Korea. South Korea agrees. They also send workers over so they can help build these billion-dollar factories, and the Trump admin deports them. This says workers described the scene as a war zone, one hidden in air.
To be fair, it sounded like a lot of those guys were on ESTA visa waivers, which is technically, you're not supposed to work when you're here on a visa waiver. But I mean, the American system sucks for immigration and visas, but...
to avoid capture. Others tried to flee into a sewage ponds. Agents used a boat to fish them out, and prosecutors later said at least one man tried to flip the vessel. Can we break down a little bit of the reaction coming from South Korea? We have this really interesting Twitter thread that starts off, something that's not being reported much regarding the ICE crackdown at Hyundai LG Georgia battery factory. Korean companies investing billions cannot get proper visas. and then are then criminalized for bringing skilled workers to fill gaps that some American laborers could not. The sentiment is one of betrayal. Before we fully read this thread, I really just want to show you this video of DEA and ICE and other agencies being militarized to an extent that is not necessary. Like, dude, these are for highly skilled workers. You're not battling Trende Aragua, homie. These are skilled workers at an LJ Hyundai.
Will you react to Hassan and Asmongold's debate? Did they have one, or are they planning on having one?
Battery plant in Georgia. It's absurd. There are also videos of people being carried out just in straight shackles. Like, they were shackling people's feet. They were shackling people's arms. What do you think this guy's going to do to you? Why is this random high-skilled worker, I don't know about this guy in particular, but why are some of these high-skilled workers being carried out in shackles? This is not what the United States is supposed to represent. South Korea's foreign ministry has confirmed over 300 of the 457 taken are Korean nationals, and Trump even responded to this morning and made it much, much worse. Let's take a listen, and let's talk about the sentiment of betrayal that South Koreans are feeling. By the way, make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mothler feed below. We are rapidly growing at a pace that MAGA media can't beat, and it's because of you all, so thank you.
This is a Fox News alert. President Trump is speaking to reporters live right now. Let's listen in.
And, you know, when they're building batteries, if you don't have people in this country right now that know about batteries, maybe we should help them along and let some people come in and train our people to do, you know, complex things, whether it's battery manufacturing or computer manufacturing or building ships. So we're going to look at that whole situation.
We're going to look at that whole situation. I feel like they know they messed up. This is the vibe that I get. There are two factions of the Trump admin with competing interests that both did not coordinate properly. So on one hand, some people in the Trump admin want to be able to float manufacturing numbers and say, look, South Korea promised this much manufacturing, even if it's not going to happen. Some people in the Trump admin really like the manufacturing numbers. But a lot of people in the Trump admin also hate any immigrants. I mean, like Stephen Miller, other people in the Trump admin, they hate any workers. Now, it's not just everyone in the Trump admin, because there was this whole drama 7 months back where some people in the Trump administration like H-1B visas and high-skilled workers, and some people didn't. So I think there are these two competing factions where one decided, hey, we are going to get investment from South Korea. The other decided, hey, we are going to raid this plant and deport a bunch of South Koreans. It never really connected in their brain that this is going to make America look like an absolute idiot on the global stage. And Trump, he seems to be kind of saying that in this clip. He's like, listen, we do sometimes need people who are higher skilled. We do need to bring them over, so we are going to take a look. But then in the second half of this clip, he continues to ramble.
We have a lot of industries that we don't have anymore, and we're going to have to train people. And the way you train people is bring people in that know what they're doing and let them stay for a little while and help. So I'm going to look at that. It's a very interesting situation that took place in Georgia. And
Trump pressures Korean companies to invest while simultaneously arresting their workers. To make matters even worse, the headline that we then got from the New York Times reads, South Korea negotiates release of Korean workers in detained Georgian raid. So the United States government forced South Korea to then negotiate, to then concede even more if they wanted the release of these nationals. South Korea reached a deal with the United States to free hundreds of South Korean workers. The way that that's written, it honestly just sounds like we kidnapped high-skilled workers and then we held it over South Korea's head until they made some substantial concessions to us. It's absolutely insane.
Good question. How many trillions did the U.S. get from that visa selling? Yeah, how many of those did we sell? Didn't they give some estimate that we would make like trillions of dollars? It was the most retarded estimate in the world. Hey, just checking. How many hundreds of billions / trillions of dollars have we made from those golden Trump visas so far? Anyone know? Or was it a visa or was it a green card? I think it was a green card. And
a few things I want to point out.
I don't care what you want to point out, bitch.